Chapter 121, Experiencing the World. Wang Jiang had already talked with his buddy, so the cop who came did not say anything at all. In the spirit of civilized law enforcement, they politely invited Jiang Chen to the police station to gather evidence. As for the people lying on the ground, they didn't experience the same privilege, and regardless of how badly they were beaten, they were all handcuffed and shoved into the police car. Zheng Hongji wanted to go with Jiang Chen. Although he did not have any connection with the police force, he could still stand as a witness, but Jiang Chen waved his hand indicating it was unnecessary and urged him to settle the family problem first and quickly pay off the debt. Jiang Chen lent him the remaining 300,000 and told him that he could pay it off with his monthly salary. Under the grateful look of the entire family, Jiang Chen followed the courteous police downstairs. Seeing the humiliated expression on Li Qiang's face, Jiang Chen halted, smiled, and pulled out his car key, waved it in front of him, and then got in his own car. Because it was just for the sake of formality, he didn't even need to go in the police car. But the hooligans who stirred up trouble would at least be locked up for half a month. Naturally, someone would teach them some lessons. However, there were not a lot of opportunities for them to prove themselves in front of their superiors. After coming to the police station, Jiang Chen cooperated and provided the evidence. The witness statement was not even needed before the whole thing was settled as a legitimate self-defense case. When leaving the police station, he accidentally ran into Wang Jiang, who was heading towards him. Li Gangming, who was driving the car, awkwardly smiled after seeing Jiang Chen. Due to his minor altercation with Jiang Chen in the past, and the latter's seemingly exceptional relationship with his superior, he was afraid that Jiang Chen would seek vengeance on him. But he was clearly overthinking, since Jiang Chen didn't even take that little thing to heart, and responded with a friendly smile. Gangming, drive the car back to the station for me. I'll have to take my brother out to play tonight. After sending Li Gangming off, Wang Jiang walked happily to Jiang Chen. Fuck, the training during these last few days is killing me. I finally got the change to go out. What's the point of being a soldier if you don't train? Jiang Chen laughingly mocked him. If you don't want to go, who can force you to? My father forced me to go. Wang Jiang laughed awkwardly and touched his nose, then changed the subject. Enough bullshit, I'll drive you to experience the world. Jiang Chen rolled his eyes and opened the car door. Wang Jiang unabashedly sat on the driver's seat. What's experiencing the world? Jiang Chen asked and helplessly sat on the passenger seat. You'll know once we get there. Wang Jiang smiled mysteriously and then started the car and admiringly exclaimed, Maybach S600 limited edition. Fuck, I am about the same age as you. How are you so rich? Do you want one, my treat? Jiang Chen laughed. To Jiang Chen's surprise, Wang Jiang shook his head. I don't dare. I have a lot of brothers who have them, so I can just drive around whenever the urge strikes. Not to brag, but I even drove a Lamborghini Koenigsegg before. A friend of mine was even prepared to give me one when he saw I like it, but I still refused. So virtuous, then why are you still a soldier? You will receive a lot of commendations if you were to become a politician. Jiang Chen laughed. Wang Jiang also chuckled and continued. It's not about being virtuous, you're overthinking. For those people who want to join my force, I wouldn't even think about it unless it is at least 1,000. Only Wang Jiang would dare to say this out loud. I only need enough money to spend. I don't have much interest in being a millionaire. The friendship would change if I accept my friend's money, Wang Jiang said casually, but it certainly hinted deeper meanings. Jiang Chen could not help but grow astonished at his words. He thought this guy was just a blockhead descendant of an influential politician who only knew how to do reckless things with his buddies, but he certainly had his own convictions in life. It was apparent that he truly considered Jiang Chen as his friend. When there was money involved, the dynamics of relationship would change. Don't think too much. I simply have too much money to spend and had no other intentions, Jiang Chen said and chuckled. Wang Jiang also laughed. Let's not talk about this anymore. Oh yeah, you created Future One, right? Yes, are you using it? Jiang Chen gave him a surprised look. The holy trinity of holy-up apps, even better than Momo by a large margin. Could you turn me into VIP 5? That shouldn't be too much trouble, right? Not at all, give me your account number, Jiang Chen said in a forthright manner. He texted Wang Ziyang's little white's account number to Zia Shiyu. Upgrading to VIP 5 only needed a word from him, the chairman. After the car arrived at the suburbs, Jiang Chen looked outside of the window. As the buildings became more and more common, he could not help but get confused. He thought Wang Ziyang would take him somewhere fun downtown, and did not expect him to drive to the outskirts. Well, aren't you curious? As though seemingly aware to Jiang Chen's confusion, Wang Ziyang arrogantly smiled. That's right, what fun is there in the suburbs? Jiang Chen did not hesitate to ask what was boggling his mind. We're almost there, it's a nice place. With a mysterious smile, Wang Ziyang turned the steering wheel into another corner. After the bend, Jiang Chen had a sudden feeling of enlightenment. At a glance, he could very well discern the destination of this trip. The European-style structure looked out of place in the less busy neighborhood, just like a castle amidst the ghetto. Surprisingly, its remote location did not impact its popularity at all. From the nearly full parking lot, not only was this place popular, but it was not a place for ordinary people. Jiang Chen's expression could not help but turn odd while looking at the magnificent building that was decorated exquisitely. The name was very familiar to him. The bright and colorful words were Hangyi Private Club. After parking the car, Wang Ziyang and Jiang Chen were ushered to the door by a server. Why did we come to this place? Jiang Chen asked while walking. Is there any problem? Wang Ziyang froze. Hang Yi gang and I had a little bit of conflict. Upon hearing this, Wang Ziyang's expression was rather odd. Then he burst out laughing and patted Jiang Chen on the shoulder. If you mean those goofballs, don't worry, they don't have anything to do with this place. I heard about Liu Changlong from my friend. He oversaw the security of a construction site for my brother in the past. Then he got transferred here as a security guard. My brother saw that he was doing good, so he told him to open a nightclub. That guy seemed to have established more businesses and created the Hangyi gang. That club used this private club name to help itself out. Nothing worth being bothered about. Wang Ziyang then took out a card as he arrogantly waved it between his fingers. VIP card, my brother gave it to me. Everything is free of charge. Tonight is on me. Although Jiang Chen was curious who his brother was, he didn't say anything anymore as he accepted the gratitude. He took out his phone from his pocket and sent a text to Aisha. I might be a little late for dinner. No need to wait for me. Suddenly, his finger froze in place. Who are you texting? Your girlfriend. Wang Ziyang grinned and poked his head to peek at the screen. Jiang Chen quickly moved the phone away and gave Wang Ziyang a dirty look and pressed send. Don't worry, we are all men. I understand. Wang Ziyang patted Jiang Chen on the shoulder and then walked to the door laughing. Although he had an inkling as to what kind of place this was, he finally confirmed it when he saw the look in Wang Ziyang's eyes. Jiang Chen smiled wryly. Those eyes filled with love appeared in his mind. Fuck, this guilty feeling is unreal. Chapter 122, Hangyi Private Club. The main colors of the building were gold and light gray. An elegant bronze chandelier was hanging in the central dome, and on both sides of the aisle were lined with exquisite European-style marble columns. Under his feet was a soft, red carpet, and above his head were star-spangled crystals. This was just the lobby on the first floor. Those who occasionally passed by were very quiet as the decoration naturally made people slow down their footsteps. Sitting at the front reception was a gorgeous receptionist, wearing a light makeup on and smiling gracefully at the two of them. The spa here is not bad. You should try it, but I recommend the activity on the third floor. Wang Ziyang laughingly winked at him. Based on his expression, Jiang Chen knew what type of service to expect on the third floor. It was obvious that he was a regular at this place, since the receptionist appeared to be familiar with him. Without even looking at the card, she started asking what kind of service he would avail. The usual for me. What about you? Wang Jiang turned to Jiang Chen. Feeling awkward, Jiang Chen looked at the list of services a few times. He hadn't been to this kind place before, so he could not understand the types of service they were offering. Spa should be about bathing, right? But what in the world were the goddess spreading flowers and lotus coming out of the water? Only the acupuncture and massage sounded normal. However, since he was already here, it would be rude to just turn around and walk away. As Jiang Chen pondered on this matter, he decided to go for something light. Truthfully, he already had a beautiful wife back home, so he had little interest in other flowers. He subconsciously thought this would be that kind of place. But just as he was about to speak, he heard an unfamiliar voice. "Brother Yang, why didn't you tell me that you'll be here to play? Haha, are you done with your training?" A young man wearing a pair of glasses walked over with a smile on his face and warmly greeted Wang Jiang. Jiang Chen couldn't tell the price of his suit, but from the aura that the man gave off, he felt that he was not a simple character. He didn't look anything special, and the only thing that left an impression on him was a pair of squinting eyes. Whether he was laughing or not, his eyes appeared to be perpetually squinting. "Nope, I played hooky. Haha, let's not talk about this. Let me introduce you to someone." Wang Jiang put his arm around Jiang Chen's shoulder. "This is the chairman of Future Technology. Jiang Chen, this is Zhou Zihao, a major shareholder of this private club." "What major shareholder? Only a bunch of friends making some pocket money." Zhou Zihao modestly smiled and then looked at Jiang Chen. "I am nowhere comparable to Mr. Jiang. Accomplished at a young age, the Future Technology even made it in Wall Street Journal. This is truly giving our country glory." "I don't deserve such praise, I just got lucky," Jiang Chen said while smiling. However, in his mind, he was secretly thinking. Zhou Zihao was not someone who was easy to deal with. He never thought these second generations of politicians were easy to fool, but rather himself was always at a disadvantage in terms of foresight and shrewdness. Take Wang Jiang, for example. Jiang Chen always thought that he was just a little blockhead, but the words he said in the car completely altered his perception of him in his mind. Wang Jiang knew too much, but he was simply not interested in politics, and that's why he always acted in a straightforward manner. On the other hand, Jiang Chen couldn't see through Zhou Zihao. His name is Zhou. Could it be the Zhou family? Thinking of this, Jiang Chen started to become more cautious. "No, no." Zhou Zihao offered his hand and shook hand with Jiang Chen. "Compared to my not-so-accomplished brother, Mr. Jiang's corporation achieved far greater things in the tech industry." Upon hearing these words, Jiang Chen's mind turned quickly. "Brother, does that mean his brother is in charge of military artificial intelligence? But what does this statement mean? A friendly gesture. What kind of relationship does he have with his brother? Competitive or close?" He only knew that Wang family and Zhou family were cut from the same cloth, but he didn't know the intricacies of these political dynasties. After all, only a few months ago, he was a nobody. Wang Jiang suddenly laughed and patted Jiang Chen on the shoulder, which interrupted his train of thought, and said, "That's enough. Why are you being serious about when we're having fun? Zih always pretends to be poetic. Don't you feel tired speaking like this?" This is not a serious talk, but only casual greetings." Zhou Zihao squinted his eyes and smiled. "Future Technology is only a startup company, so it doesn't deserve such praise." Jiang Chen laughed and let his hands go. "Oh yeah, Zihao, one of your younger brothers, Liu Changlong, seemed to be embroiled in a conflict with Jiang Chen. You take care of it." Wang Jiang chuckled as he looked at Zhou Zihao. "Liu Changlong?" Zhou Zihao frowned, thought for a moment before his eyebrows relaxed. "Oh, him. Don't worry, Mr. Jiang, I'll give you an account of this." Jiang Chen waved his hands. "It's really nothing. Although he did plot against me, now he knew better, so don't worry about it." "That won't do." Zhou Zihao shook his head in seriousness. "Today will be on me as a token of apology." "Pshh, I already said it's on me." Wang Jiang slapped the table with a grin. Zhou Zihao squinted at him. "You. The card says that it is only free for you. How many people did you treat with it? Wang Jiang shamelessly laughed and waved his hand nonchalantly. Don't worry about it. Just pretend I used it twice. Is it the first time for Mr. Jiang? Zhou Zihao glanced at him. Jiang Chen nodded, slightly embarrassed. Zhou Zihao glanced at the reception, beckoned and whispered a few words to the receptionist. He then turned around to Jiang Chen with a smile. Since this is your first time, then let's start with something light. What do you think, Mr. Jiang? What's something light? Jiang Chen was still confused but politely smiled. Then I'll listen to the host. What about Brother Yang? Zhai Zihao looked at Wang Jiang. Haha, I don't play with rookies, you know. Wang Jiang waggled his eyebrows and smiled devilishly. Zhou Zihao sighed and smiled wryly. Take care of your kidney. Wang Jiang was instantly provoked by the words. He slapped the table with bulging eyes. Fuck, my kidneys are great. I'm a soldier. How many times have you actually trained? Under the direction of the staff, Jiang Chen headed to the second floor and, due to his curiosity, secretly examined the place along the way. On the surface, it appeared to be just an ordinary private club. In the lobby of the second floor, there were pool tables and sofas. The back of the wall was a bar for serving drinks. On the other side was a gym with only 2 rows of treadmills. The common feature of these appliances was no one was using it. Clearly, they were only there as a decoration. The beautiful staff with a bright smile led Jiang Chen past through the bar into a hallway where they entered a finely decorated environment. Sir, your room number is 204. If you need anything else, you can call me through the phone inside. The staff stopped, turned her head and smiled and said to Jiang Chen. I'm okay. Seeing that the staff had already left, Jiang Chen looked at the card in his hand and hesitated. Fuck, I am not a virgin. Why am I hesitating? He cursed in his mind as Jiang Chen bit the bullet and swiped the card on the door. The door opened. It was still soft carpet on the floor, but the door was lined with shoe shelves, which meant he needed to take his shoes off upon entering the room. The faint yellow wallpaper and the dim lighting added intimate ambient to the room. In the middle of the room, there was an oddly shaped bathtub. The fluid-looking shape along had some sophisticated-looking buttons on the side. The water was ready, and a gorgeous lady in a bathrobe was standing beside it while smiling. Hello, sir, do you need help changing? No need, Jiang Chen shyly refused. Is it your first time here, sir? The beautiful woman smiled with understanding. Hee. Fuck, this is awkward. Jiang Chen mocked himself in his mind. Embarrassed, he scratched his face. The girl covered her mouth and smiled when she heard the response. Then she politely looked at Jiang Chen and continued, Sir, if this is your first time, just follow my instruction. First, please take off your clothes and then leave them over there. Take off my clothes here. Jiang Chen thought he heard it wrong. Yes, unless, sir, you want a bath with your clothes on. The girl winked and said with a smile, Do you need me to turn around? It's okay, help yourself. Jiang Chen's face turned red and coughed. Fuck, being this shy is not like me. Jiang Chen swore in his mind as he made up his mind and undressed. Do you exercise regularly, sir? With a cheerful smile, the beauty looked at Jiang Chen without avoiding his embarrassing part, then stepped forward to help Jiang Chen fold his clothes and guide him to lie in the bathtub. No, why? Nothing, I just think you are very muscular. The beauty maintained her smile, held Jiang Chen's head gently in the right spot, and then she leaned her head, intentionally or not, closer to his ear. If I were to be embraced tightly by you, it would sure feel great. The voice was full of magnetism. Jiang Chen felt his scalp become numb and his blood pressure spiked. Relax, close your eyes. Jiang Chen obediently followed. He felt a pair of hands touch the acupuncture points on his face pliantly, but with just enough force, and soothed each of his stiff nerves. The water level in the bathtub gradually decreased. The tiny water outlet sprayed out warm mist and gently washed his entire body. This acute feeling was quite intoxicating, and along with superb massage skills made Jiang Chen only feel relaxed. The tension and fatigue built up through the days of continuous battle were washed away in an instant, as if all the burden had been wiped away by the warm water stream and gentle hands. It felt like he was in the clouds. It appeared like he had thought too much. It was not some intense sexual service, but just a unique massage. This beautiful woman's technique was skillful. She first used a word to cause his blood flow to speed up, then used a soothing massage to make his muscle and mind fall into a deep state of relaxation. That feeling was even better than the embarrassing act. The small hands gradually moved to his chest and further down. The water level rose again, as the beauty appeared to have pressed a button on the side, as the water in the bathtub vibrated. "Sir, your muscle is really nice." The voice in his ears sounded magical as it flirted through his relaxed nerves, just like an ASMR guiding him to deep relaxation. "Skin is really nice too. Relax, just leave your body to me." Jiang Chen had long since done that. Because it was too relaxing, his breathing became rhythmic and he fell into a slumber. On the other side, Zhou Zihao, who sent Wang Jiang upstairs, took out his phone. Chapter 123, Seeking Forgiveness. Wang Jiang was ushered to the third floor, but Zhou Zihao didn't go with him. Wang Jiang knew his friend disdained those types of girls, so he didn't invite him. Likewise, Zhou Zihao knew what type he preferred, so he pulled out his phone. They were all smart people, it's just that they were pursuing different things. Wang Jiang only wanted to spend his days as a second-generation officer, to gain harmless, small benefits from his friends, no need to be powerful, just to live free and comfortably. But Zhou Zihao was different. He was the second son in the family. Honestly, he didn't have the best relationship with Zhou Kaiangwu, but his father clearly preferred his brother over him. Zhou family's influence was in Shangjian, but he came to Wangai City partly because of this. Although he always looked indifferent on the outside, the fact was he longed for power more than anyone else. He desired recognition. The reason why he started this private club with a bunch of silk trousers was a way for him to establish connections. Did Wang Jiang really bring Jiang Chen along because he wanted to play with women? Did he really just casually brought up the conflict between Jiang Chen and one of his dogs? In fact, Wang Jiang was very clever. He clearly knew Zhou Zihao wished to befriend Jiang Chen, so he deliberately mentioned it. "Call Liu Changlong." He commanded Little White as Zhou Zihao patiently waited for the call to get connected. "Hello, boss, what's going on?" The fawning voice of Liu Changlong came from the other side. "Did you offend a man called Jiang Chen?" Zhou Zihao said leisurely. Liu Changlong's heart immediately thudded as he cursed in his mind. Although he didn't know why his boss was asking this, the tone did not sound good at all. No, one of my worthless underlings had a conflict with him. I already kicked him out. It has nothing to do with me." Hearing this, Zhou Zihao did not have the slightest intention to let this go. His face did not have the same amicable expression when he was chatting with Jiang Chen and Wang Jiang. "Ho, everyone else knows what you were plotting, but you're pretty smart and know when to back down." To say it plainly, Liu Changlong was only a dog raised by the people above. When Changlong heard this, he sweated coldly as he deliberated the intention of his boss. Did he want him to do it, or did he acknowledge him for being smart enough for not doing it? "Let's put it this way, I want to get to know this person. Can you think of a way for me?" Zhou Zihao was laughing, but the tone was filled with cutting coldness. "Someone has to take the knife, right?" This sentence almost frightened Liu Changlong to death. He finally realized that his boss wanted to sell him out as a favor. Boss, I. Stop talking nonsense, I'll give you a chance. You have half a minute to think who you're willing to throw under the bus." Zhou Zihao chuckled. Liu Changlong's hand that was holding the phone uncontrollably trembled, while his underlings dumbfoundedly looked at their frightened boss. They didn't understand why their normally glamorous boss would be quivering like a dog. "That's right, just like a dog." Liu Changlong secretly complained. He didn't even do it yet. If Jiang Chen didn't know he was plotting against him, it would be okay, but somehow he figured it out. Someone had to be thrown under the bus as a favor. What to do? Use Liu Anshan as a scapegoat. A fierce glint flashed in Liu Changlong's eyes. Although it was his brother, there was no way he could care about family now. But just as he was about to say Liu Anshan's name, another name popped into his head. Fang Yuanyuan. He remembered his son, brimming with confidence, took a bunch of hooligans to extort someone called Jiang Chen. He heard from the SLT he played with before that it was a rich guy without any background. Fortunately, his son asked him before he actually did something. If they had already done something, there was no way this could be resolved. Although when he first plotted against Jiang Chen, it had nothing to do with Fang Yuanyuan. However, she did call his son so she could be the scapegoat. Have you thought of someone? I did, boss. There was this girl. This is what happened. Liu Changlong submissively held the phone and explained the story about Fang Yuanyuan. Once a former crush, now a SLT provoked the gang to make a move on him. Zhou Zihao captured the three key concepts and gave it a thought. He only needed a favor as a stepping stone. Maybe Jiang Chen would be the key to defeating his brother. Based on Liu Changlong's description, this woman seemed to have fit the criteria. Also, when he heard it was a woman, he suddenly had other ideas. Bring that person here, you know what I'm talking about. Zhou Zihao's smile was peculiar. Yes, yes. Liu Changlong held the phone while his back was completely drenched with sweat. Liu Changlong hung up the phone and glanced at the thugs around him. The thugs were all silent and afraid to look at their boss in the eyes. Diaozi, go capture her back. I'll give you 1 hour. Liu Changlong said emotionally. He regained his tyrannical bearing as if the submissive conversation never happened before. Yes, Diaozi nodded and hastily left. Liu Changlong leaned against the chair and rubbed his tired forehead. A smile appeared on his face. After comfortably leaving the room, Jiang Chen twisted his neck and felt his entire body's weariness was washed clean. It was already 5:30. The staff was waiting at the door and led him to the dining hall. Once he arrived, Jiang Chen saw that Wang Ziyang and Zhou Zihao were already waiting there. Yo, did you have fun? Wang Ziyang waggled his eyebrows. Not bad, I fell asleep in the latter half. Jiang Chen smiled and pulled a chair to sit down. Such a shame. The best way to enjoy it is to close your eyes and relax your body. Zhou Zihao was still though with same squinting eyes as he picked up a cup of tea and took a sip. Enough, don't bring your good living philosophy here. Waiter, bring out the dishes and alcohol, Wang Ziyang called out. Do you take this for a hotel? Zhou Zihao was speechless and then signaled the waiter on the side to bring out the dishes. The dazzling dishes were placed on the table, and the gorgeous staff slightly leaned forward to pour a glass of wine for each one of them. Wine can help with blood circulation. This is a good stuff. Is Mr. Jiang okay with it? Zhou Zihao smilingly raised his wine glass for a toast. Based on the purity of the color, the wine must have been very expensive, but Zhou Zihao did not mention the year and brand. His shrewdness truly ran deep. Pretty good, but I don't drink much. Jiang Chen smiled and raised and clanked his glass with him. Zihao had always liked these fine things. Who would drink this sour wine? Wang Ziyang jested, but his hand was still on the wine glass. After a couple rounds of drink, the three started conversing with one another. Wang Ziyang was surprisingly quiet, and Zhou Zihao was talking a lot more. Jiang Chen had a feeling that Zhou Zihao was trying to befriend him. His attitude made him feel wary. Logically speaking, his artificial intelligence was almost overlapping with Zhou family's craft. In other words, Zhou Zihao was not popular at home, so he wanted to form a relationship with me. Jiang Chen was not repulsed by Zhou Zihao's friendly gesture. After a few glasses of wine, they started calling each other brothers. Brother Jiang, I'll have to offer you a glass one more time. This glass counts as me not controlling my subordinates and causing problems for you. Zhou Zihao suddenly stood up, smilingly offered a toast and drained the glass of wine. To drink wine like this was a waste of a luxury. Seeing this, Jiang Chen also hurriedly stood up and smiled wryly. There is no need, Brother Zhou. I don't really mind, and he hadn't done anything yet. Zhou Zihao waved his hand and then signaled the server on the side. The waiter courteously nodded and walked out in haste. After a while, the door opened. Jiang Chen saw a strange man came in. The person was sporting a buzz cut. His face had a certain kind of resoluteness, but also had a terrified expression on his face. Age-wise, he was at least 10 years older than Zhou Zihao. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed slightly as he guessed the identity of this 30-year-old man. Liu Chenglong, the leader of Hangyi Gang and the man who plotted against him. Wang Xiang watched while he carried his glass with a gloating expression. Zhou Zihao didn't look at Liu Chenglong and only stared at Jiang Chen with the same smiling expression. Jiang Chen glanced at Liu Chenglong and then questioningly looked at Zhou Zihao. Ahem, Zhou Zihao lightly coughed. There was a pudong sound as Liu Chenglong, a man 180 cm tall, dropped to his knees and knocked his head on the ground. Liu Chenglong was blinded and listened to wrongdoers' incitement and planned to kidnap your parents. I hope, Sir Jiang Chen, to forgive me and let me go like a fart. Jiang Chen was stunned. He really did not expect Liu Chenglong was planning to abduct his parents outside of the province. He also didn't think that before he even made a move, Zhou Zihao had already brought him here to apologize. Wang Xiang looked at Liu Chenglong, who was kowtowing, and seemed to wear an expression that this was to be expected. Zhou Zihao still didn't spare a glance at Liu Chenglong, and remained his focus on Jiang Chen while smiling. Is Brother Jiang satisfied with this result? Jiang Chen's throat moved and laughed awkwardly, very satisfied. He didn't know what to say, and though he disdained these scums of society and was enraged by the fact that Liu Chenglong planned to use his parents to threaten him, he did back down. Zhou Zihao with his squinting eyes was a ruthless character and not at all easy to deal with. In any case, he owed him a favor. Jiang Chen thought to himself, but his expression remained the same. When Zhou Zihao saw that Jiang Chen had relented, he then waved his hand. The beautiful waitress on the side, holding a bottle of about 1 liter of baijiu, came over and placed it in front of Liu Chenglong with a smile. You know what to do, Zhou Zihao said casually. A cold sweat rolled across Liu Chenglong's forehead, but when he thought of Zhou Zihao's intention, he gritted his teeth, opened the lid with his teeth and began drinking. That was 1 liter of baijiu. The alcohol concentration would certainly not be low. Jiang Chen, who was watching on the side, was secretly scared. Zhou Zihao was watching on coldly, while Wang Xiang was still showing an interested expression. As soon as Liu Chenglong had finished the bottle, he immediately fell unconscious on the ground. The waiter nearby looked at Zhou Zihao, and after seeing him nod, he carried the unconscious Liu Chenglong outside. Liu Chenglong was going straight to the hospital. He was definitely biting the bullet on this one. Jiang Chen was secretly speechless, but did not have an ounce of sympathy, though he was more and more scared of Zhou Zihao's ruthlessness. This man is ruthless. Zihao, you should pay extra care to those people under you. Are you not afraid of dirtying your own hands? Wang Xiang said and chuckled. Ahem, even a rat has a rat's value, Zhou Zihao said, then turned to look at Jiang Chen. I hope you won't mind what happened today. Brother Jiang, I truly value our friendship. If this rat dares to dirty your shoes again, I'd throw him into the Huangpu River. No need for that, Brother Zhou is really a great friend. It's my honor to become your friend, Jiang Chen said. Thankfully, they were not enemies. There is no need to go back today. Why don't stay for the night? Zihao prepared you another fun show, hee. Wang Xiang burst into laughter. Ahem, Brother Yang, spoiler is not good, Zhou Zihao lightly coughed. What type of show? Jiang Chen asked casually. Trust me, you will love it. Zhou Zihao smiled mysteriously after continuing. Would Brother Jiang give me this chance? It would be impolite to refuse. Jiang Chen only debated for a second before quickly replying. Then, I'll listen to the host. There was nothing to it but say yes. After dinner, it was still the same smiling waitress. Jiang Chen was led into a quiet room on the 3rd floor under her guidance. The noise insulation here is excellent. Enjoy yourself. The staff smiled ambiguously and backed out of the room. Jiang Chen touched his nose shyly, stood at the entrance for a while before finally going into the room. Looks like I am not going home tonight. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen pushed the exquisitely decorated door open, but after entering the room, he was surprised to see someone he didn't expect. It's you. Jiang Chen's expression could not be more strange. Chapter 124. It's really ironic. It's you. Jiang Chen looked strangely at Fang Yuanyuan sitting on the chair. Although she was sitting, the posture could not be described as elegant. Her face was filled with horror, her hair was disheveled, and her lips were covered with black tape. Her limbs were tied up by nylon ropes in an indecent M style on the chair. Although her clothes were intact, she was without any kind of decency in this position. Next to the bedside table was a laptop. The bright screen projected an audio file. As if Jiang Chen had guessed something based on Fang Yuanyuan's appearance, he stepped forward and gently pressed the play button. Yo girl, did you miss your brother? Pervert, let me tell you something, I have a classmate who made a fortune. No, clean background, I know that guy, he just got lucky. Jiang Chen quietly listened to the voice recording and stared at Fang Yuanyuan with a faint smile on his face. Fang Yuanyuan evaded Jiang Chen's gaze, afraid to make an eye contact with him. Regardless of how unbelievable it was for her, this was the reality. The foolish fly that once buzzed around her like a fly had become someone that could control her life and death. That's right, life and death. When she was on her way home from work and was forcibly tied here, a frightening-looking man told her. Two options. First, satisfy the man named Jiang Chen regardless of what he would do. Afterward, she would receive $10,000 as compensation. Second, become fish bait in the Huangpu River. She had never seen anything like this before, so she got scared that she almost peed her pants. Her captors didn't talk more as they skillfully tied her on the chair and threw her in the wretched room. The center of the room had a round bed, and beside the closet was some strange bondage devices as well as some frightening tools. Fang Yuanyuan looked at the man whom she had hurt before, horrified. She was scared, and she feared that he would use those awful things on her. If he actually did, she would have to endure the pain. At this time the phone suddenly rang. Jiang Chen grabbed the phone as if he already guessed who it was. Not in the least bit surprised, he pressed the button. Hello. Is brother Jiang satisfied with the show? Without a doubt, the lyrical-sounding tone was definitely from squinting eyes. Brother Joe is worrying too much. If you really want to cooperate with me, you only need to tell me. Why are you using these low-level tricks? Jiang Chen's voice was slightly cold. There was a distinct pause on the other side of the line. Brother Jiang, I don't really understand what you mean. Oh yeah, if you want to watch porn, then I can give you a few gigabytes of torrents. What's with the fetish of watching things live? Jiang Chen hung up the phone, put it in his pocket, then threw it in the storage dimension. He didn't take his hand out of the pocket as he took out an EMP grenade directly from the storage dimension and detonated it. A faint static noise was heard in the room. The laptop instantly turned black as a trail of smoke came from the fan. The light bulb on the ceiling flickered a few times before the light abruptly dimmed down. As if to confirm his suspicion, Jiang Chen keenly caught a glimpse of a few wisps of smoke from the several corners of the room. He walked in front the photo frame directly above the bed. He sniffed, and the faint burnt smell was not difficult to capture. In the control room, Zhu Zihao, with the phone still in his hand, was bewildered. His squinting eyes were actually opened. He didn't know what Jiang Chen just did that short-circuited all the monitors in the room. Interesting, he muttered to himself as he looked at the four blacked-out screens. There was no hatred without cause, nor was there any goodness without reason. Slap his underlings a few times for a new friend. This sorry excuse for friendship was pure bullshit. There was no deep hatred running between them, but he put on a show of asking for forgiveness, and then bring Fang Yuanyuan to his room with the recorded conversation. It was as if he is trying to provoke the hatred. From beginning to end, Zhou Zihao didn't ask him anything but did so much. When Jiang Chen saw the design of the room that was meant to incite him into committing a crime, he suddenly understood. In Zhou Zihao's plot, at this time, he would have been furiously ripping her clothes apart and unleashing his anger to humiliate her in the most torturous way possible. But in that case, what was there to gain for Zhou Zihao? To record these atrocities, and then use them would be the best way to maximize the gain. If he could be ruthless to one of his own, then there was no reason he would be gentle to an outsider. Jiang Chen ignored the surprised look on Fang Yuanyuan's face and once again pulled out his phone. He needed to confirm if Wang Ziyang knew about this. "Hello, Brother Yang." "What, Brother Chen? Don't tell me you're done already." There was woman's voice on his side. It seemed to have been more than one. "The Brother Joe you introduced me is a bit of a bore, or does he have a fetish for peeping at others' privacy?" Jiang Chen's voice was full of other meanings. The other side of line paused for a moment. "Sorry, I'll give you a response to this. I didn't expect Zihao to be this ruthless. He wanted to meet you and asked me to make an introduction. I thought there would be opportunities for you guys to cooperate. So, it's okay, I just wanted to confirm. Okay, I'll head back first." After this turn of event, Jiang Chen didn't want to stay here any longer. After hanging up, Jiang Chen glanced at Fang Yuanyuan and burst out laughing. He ripped off the tape on her mouth, disregarded her cry of pain, and gazed into her frightened eyes. "I really don't understand your mentality, because you're jealous that you're giving me trouble, or do you think that I've done you wrong? Look at you now." Although the tape was ripped off, Fang Yuanyuan could not let a word. She looked at Jiang Chen, curled back looking horrified. Looking at her cowering look, Jiang Chen did not know why he thought it was amusing. "This is so ironic. Who knows why I got so blinded that I thought I had loved you for a moment." Jiang Chen shook his head and walked towards the door. "Don't go." Seeing Jiang Chen was about to leave, Fang Yuanyuan was nervous. Jiang Chen stopped and turned around. He didn't expect Fang Yuanyuan to stop him. He gazed at her with an odd look. Fang Yuanyuan didn't dare to look at him in the eyes. She mumbled, "If you have something to say, spill it now." Jiang Chen interrupted impatiently. Jiang Chen's apathy made her feel humiliated and wronged. After hesitating for a moment, she spoke while sobbing. When Jiang Chen heard that if she didn't make him happy, she would be thrown into the Huangpu River as bait, he laughed. "That means you're begging me to fuck you, and then write a positive comment on your butt." Hearing this, Fang Yuanyuan's pale skin swelled into a deep red color. She buried her head, no longer speaking. "Why do you have to make yourself into a SLT? Want me to fuck you? I'd feel dirty even with a condom on." Leaving these words, Jiang Chen turned around and left the room despite the pleading on her face, and mercilessly slammed the door shut. Zhu Zihao's trick was already exposed. Why would it matter if he had sex with her or not? The SLT didn't know that she was only a pawn. Wang Ziyang walked into the control room. Zhou Zihao seemed to be expecting his presence as he stood there waiting quietly. Without a word, Wang Ziyang walked up and threw a punch on his face. The staffs were all shocked and bewildered, and helplessly watched their boss and his friend. Zhu Zihao touched his nose, saw the blood in his hand, and smiled suddenly. "Brother Yang, your temper hasn't really changed." Wang Ziyang dragged him up by the collar. The smiling face was pulled forward. "You know my temper, then. You should know what type of person I can't tolerate." "I do." Zhou Zihao's expression didn't change slightly. His tone was very flat. "I don't give a SHT about the things in your family, but I nicely brought my friend for you to meet, and you made me look like this." Wang Ziyang stared directly into his squinting eyes. "Brother Yang, you are the oldest son in the family, right?" Zhou Zihao interrupted him. Wang Ziyang paused. He couldn't understand the meaning behind his words. "Then you don't know how I feel." Zhou Zihao gently removed Wang Ziyang's hand holding his collar. "If you knew, then your desire to control will not be lower than mine. This time it's my fault. I didn't expect the newly rich Jiang Chen was not as dumb as he looked. But if I was given another chance, I will still make the same choice. If I can't control the pawns in my hand, then what's the point of it? Then let me warn you, You dare to lay your hands on my friend again, even if you are my friend. I can't promise you that you will be able to stay in Wangai City." Leaving these harsh words, Wang Ziyang left for the door. As Zhou Zihao watched Wang Ziyang retreating back, he gave a noncommittal smile. 147 official scandal videos. Not you, even your dad would not make me go back to Shangjing. He had been playing with fire for a long time ago. After a moment, he shook his head again. This is disappointing. Looks like using military artificial intelligence as a starting point to take down my brother is not realistic. Jiang Chen, forget it. It's best not to anger Wang Ziyang further. When he drove back to the villa, it was already 10 in the evening. The lights were out, so Aisha seemed to be already asleep. Jiang Chen drove the car into the garage and headed straight to the office. He leaned against the chair, turned on the laptop and checked his email. "The cast is set. Buddy, should we go to the next step?" Robert. Attachment: Johnny's personal information and script. Jiang Chen carefully read through the attachment. He gave it some thought as his fingers typed furiously on the keyboard. Suddenly, a cup of hot cocoa was gently placed on the table. Jiang Chen paused and turned around. Aisha was standing behind him and was affectionately looking at him. "It's late. Why are you still up?" Jiang Chen stopped what he was doing, looked at her fondly and smiled. "Well, I just got out of the training chamber." Aisha put her hands on his shoulder and began massaging. "Go to sleep first. I still have something to do." Jiang Chen put his hand on top of hers and squeezed her soft little hands. Seeing the blushing Aisha left, Jiang Chen returned to the computer screen. "Should the plan be expedited?" Jiang Chen murmured as he entered few more words to the text field. "Ask Nick to prepare. I'll head to Kane in October." Before that, he needed to head to Apocalypse to acquire some powerful firearms. Chapter 125. I Can't Control Myself. 5th day. 5 days had passed. The morale was very low. Although the supplies were adequate, there was despondency in everyone's face. Victory, the price they paid for it was too heavy that it cast a gloom on their victory. 4 power armors were destroyed, and the boss was nowhere to be found. The mutants left a total of 41 bodies that were lying on the field. Fortunately, the harvest was bountiful. 4 shoulder-launched recoilless rockets along with 3 reinforced armored trucks were seized. IHaveAMansion's bullet production line was a pleasant surprise, so Fishbone would able to produce rifle ammunition on their own without the need to import from 6th Street. At the top of the laboratory was 4 anti-aircraft guns that seemed to have been a modified .50 caliber machine gun. These were excellent in typical survival camps as they were considered to be powerful stationary weapons. If they were equipped with armor-piercing bullets and could get the first shot, they could easily suppress an armored vehicle. IHaveAMansion detained more than 20 captives in the basement. It was quite funny when the survivors were kicked off from the mutants' truck. Not only they were not frightened, but rather their face was full of happiness. It was as though they had been saved. It was indeed true, as they no longer have to worry about being thrown into a pot and being pickled into eunuchs. Many people would rather die than be captured by mutants. If they were taken as a prisoner, there would be at least room for negotiation, wouldn't it? At least they could fight, so they definitely have some value. Although the wasteland was not necessarily short of a population, they absolutely lacked in experts like them. As to whomever they worked for, they couldn't care less. Although there were a lot of clamors from the survivors to kill off the gang survivors, Sun Jiao still ordered them to be locked up first. A nutrient supply a day would stave off the hunger and death. As for the nutrient supply, they were naturally raided from their warehouse, as Fishbone Base didn't have a need for those. Other than being unpalatable and lacking in nutrition, there were still some benefits to the nutrient supply. The people who ate these concoctions didn't need to defecate for a long time, as the metabolic waste would be reduced to its limit. Even if they were imprisoned in the basement, there was no need to worry about the hygiene. Simply put, the decision to kill or not would have to wait until Jiang Chen came back. He will be back. Sun Jiao still firmly believed that. As usual, Sun Jiao sat in the doorway of the tent. Behind her was the place where Jiang Chen was last seen. As early as 5 days ago, she ordered to use the tent to surround the place where Jiang Chen had disappeared into. It was his biggest secret, and also Fishbone Base's biggest secret, so there was absolutely no way she would let anyone find out about it. She was still holding Sirius in her hands. The laser rifle that had accompanied her for many years was used to slaughter over and over again in these past 5 days. And during these 5 days, she had been thinking about a problem. If Jiang Chen never came back, what would she do? "You liar, you said you will take me to the other side." Her eyes looked sorrowful. Lin Lin was standing not far away from Sun Jiao, as the latter stared blankly ahead above the tent. Although she was permitted to get off the truck and walk, she was ordered to stay within the 100 m radius. If she exceeded that distance, Sun Jiao calmly expressed that she would shoot. That girl was so scared, she almost peed her pants again. "What on earth are you looking at?" Lin Lin looked up helplessly as she murmured disapprovingly. At the moment her left eye was black, but her right eye was bloody red. After 5 days of communication, she finally reached a tacit understanding with the bug, or Ting-Ting. The body would be controlled by Lin Lin, but the right eye would belong to the bug. This was also a compromise of sorts. Although Lin Lin was opposed to the idea of a bug living in her head and had racked her brains to think of ways to get rid of it, it had never lasted for more than 3 seconds for her to realize it was an exercise in futility, and so she gave up on it. Anyway, there was no harm other than the fact that part of the nutrients would be divided between the two of them every time she ate every day. "Jiang Chen. You're talking about him. That scoundrel is now in trouble. This feels great. He totally deserves it. I don't know. Hopefully he's safe." Although her initial reaction was that of gloating, however, after giving it careful consideration, that guy did not seem so bad. Lin Lin was conflicted. Her head was in turmoil. She had seen the women in the basement, and she could not believe that the world had fallen into such chaos, nor could she imagine what would have happened if anyone else other than that man had encountered her. Lin Lin shuddered and wrapped herself around her arms. "Puke, that's too disgusting. With my stunning look, I will be arped 100 times over, then will be turned into a sex toy." Well, in addition to narcissism, her delusions and paranoia were also quite problematic. "Jiang Chen." Slightly moving her sore neck, Lin Lin grumbled, "Hello, what are you looking at? Other than radiation dust, what else is there in the sky?" "Jiang Chen." The mother bug was still transmitting the same thought. Stunned, Lin Lin touched her heart as she sensed the gradually increasing beat. Her digital left eye shrunk slightly as she tried to understand the abnormalities in the surrounding area. Did she see Jiang Chen? But how could that be? There was nothing in there at all. Suddenly, Lin Lin appeared to have thought of something. Her pupil began to dilate and muttered to herself, "That's impossible. Theoretically, that's not possible unless—" "What are you looking at?" Sun Jiao looked her over and frowned. Her messy hair obscured her eyes with gloom. Lin Ling was startled by her gaze and said while trembling, "No, it's not me. It's the bug that wants to look and also that mentioned Jiang Chen's name." She was extremely frightened of Sun Jiao. In her fragile heart, this female demon was more sinister than the male demon. At least she could detect a trace of sympathy and compassion in his eyes on occasion, but there was none from this woman. For this woman, other than the things I like in this world, it was things I dislike. Sun Jiao's eyes flickered for a second, and she seemed to have thought of something. "Ask it, what did it see?" I have been asking, but it seems to only know those 2 words." Lin Lin smiled wryly. Sun Jiao silently shifted her line of sight, as if losing interest in Lin Ling. All of a sudden, the tent cover was lifted up. Sorry, I'm late." The voice Sun Jiao had missed dearly rang by her ear. Her pupil began to dilate, and her eyes were instantly covered with a fine mist. "Hello, what are you doing?" His chest made an impact with something soft as his back came in contact with the ground, with a muffled sound. Jiang Chen looked at the beauty lying on his chest with a grin. For these past 5 days, every morning, he had been trying to start the interdimensional bracelet and finally succeeded this morning. Just like what he had suspected, the travel function was not broken, it was merely overloaded. As soon as he arrived, before even gaining his balance, he was struck on the ground by this girl. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Those soft fists were pounding hard against his chest. Jiang Chen was stunned while looking at the sobbing Sun Jiao. From the beginning, she had always given him that little devilish feeling. It was the first time seeing her so weak and vulnerable. Jiang Chen opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Why didn't you come back earlier? Do you know how difficult these past few days have been for me? Her grievance halted, her crystal eyes were quivering with mist. Jiang Chen hugged her waist and suddenly kissed her on the lips. From stun to obedience, Sun Jiao gently closed her eyes as if the grievance of the past few days didn't matter anymore. She hooked her arms around his neck and responded just as passionately. Due to the enormous softness pressing against his chest, Jiang Chen felt his mouth became parched. Unaware of his condition, Sun Jiao worried about Jiang Chen's life-and-death condition. Did he not miss her too? He reached out his hand to pull the zipper of her suit. No, don't. Sun Jiao was suddenly frightened and shrank back as she awkwardly covered her front and looked away. I didn't shower. She had been here for 5 days. Although there no scarcity of water, she was not in the mood to take care of her hygiene. Jiang Chen paused before a smirk appeared on his face. While Sun Jiao shrieked softly, he got on top of the charming girl. I don't mind. Jiang Chen roughly tore the zipper on the one-piece combat suit and kissed her neck. No, the faint murmur sounded insignificant in this intimate scene. Sun Jiao with misty eyes caressed Jiang Chen's back. Her slender jade legs rubbed unconsciously with one another. Don't you want to listen to my explanation? Jiang Chen suddenly stopped as he gently bit her earlobe with a smirk. No, I want. The explanation can be saved for later. Yes, the day after. Lin stood awkwardly outside the tent. Her pale face was flushed. She could not decide whether to go or not. Leave, she was afraid that Sun Jiao would really kill her. Stay, but these shameless people, they started doing it. He was indeed a huge pervert. Although she didn't know what it felt like, just the thought of it was embarrassing. Suddenly, her heartbeat began to accelerate, making her stunned. Ting was trying to seize control of her body. You're insane. If we go, that savage girl will kill us. What, can't you beat her? Yes, but I don't want to fight. Stop. Why, I can't control my strength. Inside of the tent was filled with romance. Outside of the tent, a beautiful girl who had a 2.5-dimensional anime appearance was desperately using her right hand to hold onto her uncontrollable left hand. She was mumbling nonsensical words that resembled anime lines. The scene could not be more comical. Chapter 126, Why Not? The basement door opened. Jiang Chen watched as the 170 cm man dashed into the room, smashed the cell door lock open with the gun, and hugged his wife crying. The woman's top was exposed and her eyes appeared to be lifeless, but she seemed to be moved by the crying sound as her eyes gradually regained its clarity and tears of sorrow gushed down. I really can't bear looking at this, Jiang Chen muttered to himself. His tone was somewhat complicated. What are you going to do with the captives? Sun Jiao glanced at the door imprisoning Zhou Zioxia. Public execution. There was no need to hesitate. For authority, for order. Jiang Chen paused for a moment before continuing, but before that, I want to meet our old friend. Upon hearing this, a mischievous smile appeared on Sun Jiao's face. Zhou Guoping slumped into prison dejectedly. He was clearly aware of his impending doom, but his heart still held a glimmer of hope. He did not care who he was fighting with, for he was confident in his intellect. However, when he saw the face from the small window of the cell, his confidence instantly vanished and his face lost all of its blood. Oh, remember me? Jiang Chen asked with a smile. Although he never saw him before, Zhou Guoping must have known him. Zhou Guoping swallowed hard and slowly nodded. Do you remember Hu Lei? It had been a while, but he was the first person he killed in this world. Jiang Chen faintly remembered the feeling of astonishment while staring at the skull that burst open by a gunshot. "It was you who killed him, wasn't it?" Zhou Guoping smiled, but that smile was uglier than crying. "That's right, I had no reason to let him go." Jiang Chen's tone was very calm. "Then why are you wasting time on me?" Zhou Guoping smiled bitterly. Jiang Chen grinned and settled his hand on the window pane. "You have two options here. First, tell me everything you know. If it's useful enough, I might consider sparing you. Of course, I'll ask the same question to other people, so you better tell the truth. Second, well, I don't think I need to explain it." "I choose the first one," he chose without hesitation. He didn't want to die even if he might still do after unraveling everything. "You better start," Jiang Chen said with a smile. To save his own life, Zhou Guoping spilled everything he knew. Jiang Chen was able to gather a lot of useful information from his revelations. The first one was the supply. Other than the 4 modified machine guns and the bullet production line they had plundered, there was also a zombie electricity generation in the basement of the laboratory. It used the organic material of zombies or mutants, such as fat or protein, as raw material to produce electricity. It was a great thing since winter was fast approaching. Since Fishbone Base's electricity was powered by solar, they would definitely experience a decrease in energy production. With this zombie electricity generator, they would not need to worry about energy problem anymore. It was indeed surprising that these bandits were able to hide such good stuff. In addition to supplies, Jiang Chen also heard some interesting information. Those mutated humans came from Jia City and are now stationed at the 7th zone. They initially wanted to absorb us, but our boss refused it since no one wanted to become a eunuch. The first wave only had 5 people in them and we successfully killed all of them, but we didn't expect that a big group would show up. Zhou Guoping laughed bitterly. It was a disaster. Our boss, Skull, got smashed in half. He was wondering why he didn't see the leader of the Huizhang mercenaries. Looked like he was killed in a crossfire. "Where is the 7th zone?" Jiang Chen frowned. The details of the topography in the apocalypse was quite different to that of the modern world. Zhou Guoping looked strangely at him. Between the highway of Wangai City and Jia City is a light industrial area where few people reside. Not a lot of zombies, but some powerful mutants. Jiang Chen scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Do you know what their purpose is in coming to Wangai City?" Another bitter smile appeared on Zhou Guoping's face. "No, there was no room for negotiation between mutated humans and humans, and in my opinion, aside from not eating human flesh, they are basically just mutants who can use guns." The metaphor did sound strange to Jiang Chen, but after thinking about it, that really seemed to be the case. They could eat anything that humans couldn't eat, and they could eat things mutants didn't even dare to eat, even the rotten meat on ration. They could enter a nuclear pit with just their body. Any vaccine virus would no longer affect them. Thankfully, these monsters were infertile. "Didn't you catch a captive?" Zhou Guoping asked warily. Jiang Chen glanced at him. "No, you already said they are like mutants. Have you tried catching a death claw?" Zhou Guoping forced a laugh and scratched his nose. "Boss, do you think my information is enough to exchange for my life?" Jiang Chen stared at him with a faint smile on his face, which made his heart tremble. "To kill or not to kill? Although I did cause some minor problem for you, it was only because I was standing from Huizhang mercenaries' side. Now that Huizhang mercenaries have been destroyed by you, even if you kill me, I would just be an extra body. You definitely could spare my worthless life. Trust me, my ability won't disappoint you." Seeing the look on Jiang Chen's face, Zhou Guoping carefully opened his mouth. "Oh, tell me, how are you useful?" Jiang Chen watched him while laughing. "I know the Songjiang area very well. I have more or less an understanding of most of the smaller survival camps and gathering place for the survivors. My eloquence and scouting ability are also quite impressive. It definitely wouldn't be a waste of your nutrient supply. On top of that, I'm wearing an electronic collar or slavery chip, which means you won't even need to worry about my loyalty." Zhou Guoping carefully worded his explanation, because it had to do with his life while observing the change in Jiang Chen expression. It would just be an extra body if he killed him. At the very least he could serve as a cannon fodder. Although the bandits must be eliminated, this person seemed to be useful. After giving it some thoughts, Jiang Chen made the decision and laughed when he saw the apprehension on Zhou Guoping's face. "Great, you've managed to convince me, so I'll spare your life. I hope you can persuade the others for me." Upon hearing this, Zhou Guoping was quite ecstatic and immediately knelt on the ground without a semblance of dignity. "Thank you, glorious leader, for sparing me." Jiang Chen looked disdainfully at him and lightly coughed. "Call me boss, I'm not a bandit." "Yes, boss." After settling his affair with Zhou Guoping, Jiang Chen headed to the door that was imprisoning Chu Nan. He looked at the man, who was no longer crying to get out, and knocked on the door. Hearing the knock on the door, Chu Nan raised his head, and a bitter smile appeared on his face when he saw that it was Jiang Chen. "Could you let me go now?" "Sure, do you want me to open the door now?" Jiang Chen took out the key and waved it and asked, "May I ask where you'll be heading next?" Chu Nan fell into a short silence. "I don't know, but I definitely can't go back to Liuding Town." Jiang Chen asked in a casual tone, "Would you like to come to my base?" Hearing this, Chu Nan lifted his head and looked at Jiang Chen a few times. "Didn't you say you don't need a pilot?" Jiang Chen shrugged. "I've changed my mind. Although I don't have a plane right now, but soon I'll definitely get one." Chu Nan suspiciously looked at him. Some uncertainty still lingered in his heart. "I don't even know what kind of organization you belong." "The bread you ate last time, 3 meals a day." "Deal," Chu Nan shouted immediately without the least bit of hesitation. "Aren't you going to consider it?" Jiang Chen burst out laughing. "Hee, what is there to consider?" Chu Nan mocked him. "Funny, food every meal." Although Liuding Town provided B-grade nutrient supply for a pilot like him, and even if it was grade A, it didn't taste better than the actual food. Jiang Chen nodded and remarked, "Good, in 2 days, I'll send you to the 6th Street to be implanted with the slavery chip. You'll be a member of our fishbone base then." Finished, Jiang Chen turned round to prepare to leave, but... "Wait," Chu Nan stopped him suddenly. "What's the matter?" Jiang Chen turned around and looked at him in bemusement. "That," Chu Nan hesitated for a moment, "what are you going to do with those women?" "Those women?" Jiang Chen could not help but ponder on it. He had almost forgotten about this problem. Thinking about it, these women that had been practically broken by the bandits were extremely tricky to deal with. Take them back. What's the use of keeping these people? Fishbone Base was not a welfare home. Leave them here, let them go. It would be no different than killing them. In fact, it would be useful to take them back to the base. Chu Nan proposed when he seemed to have seen his hesitation. "Oh, what use?" Jiang Chen gave Chu Nan a meaningful then burst out laughing. "You're not looking for a woman to get rid of your virginity, are you?" Chu Nan was frozen for a second before he quickly reacted furiously. "Fuck, my name is Chu Nan, I never said I'm a virgin. Chu Nan is homonym of virgin." Chu Nan paused for a while before continuing. "If you don't have the chip implant technology, then you guys must be a small new survival base." Jiang Chen looked at him in surprise. That analysis was reasonable. "Yes, so?" Jiang Chen asked non-committally. "In the wasteland, the survivability of male is far stronger than female, so it's easy to imagine the ratio. I don't know about 6th Street, but there are a lot of bachelors in Liuding Town," Chu Nan said seriously. "Like you," Jiang Chen laughed. "That's right." Chu Nan nodded his head without avoiding the question, then continued. "In Liuding Town, they run an official brothel to help survivors alleviate their stress and meet their physiological needs. It would not only decrease the possibility of crime, but it would also increase camp stability." "Is that right? Everyone in my fishbone base is implanted with slavery chip. Do you think I need to worry about stability issues?" Jiang Chen asked him. "I have been implanted with that kind of chips before. Even though the name is a bit different, I think the function is pretty much the same. Let me put it this way. Although you can monitor the privacy of everyone and control their life and death, you could not dictate their emotion. So, Jiang Chen processed the information. Unless you keep everyone in the state of perpetual hunger so that they don't have spare energy to think about anything else than survival, you can't expect a group of bachelors not to have hope for the next day. It might be okay for a while, but there will definitely be problems in the long run. Especially in a wasteland covered by radiation dust, everyone's mental state is nowhere good to begin in. Chunan laid out the facts bluntly. Mental state. Jiang Chen had not considered this point. He seemed to have only been paying attention to his own mental state. For example, when he first went back to the modern world from the apocalypse, he immediately went to Sanya to experience a lavish life. The ghetto in the 6th Street, those unemployed survivors were in a constant state of hunger, so they would not have any desire to breed. On the contrary, in Fishbone Base, because the hunger and clothing problems had been resolved, they would naturally start thinking of other things. Perhaps it was precisely like what Chunan had said. Unless everyone were perpetually hungry, it would be unrealistic to expect them not to have new desires. Even if Jiang Chen could control their life, he could not control the emotion of everyone. After all, not everyone had the philosophy of a monk. Although when he bought the refugees slaves, he deliberately selected those who had a family and controlled the gender ratio. But regardless how hard he tried, the male population far exceed the female population because of the expansion. Should he let the single guys masturbate with one another? It obviously not going to work. That is, you think I should open a brothel? Jiang Chen's expression was a bit peculiar. This was something against his principle. Of course, there are other means. Chunan paused as he had sensed Jiang Chen's disdain towards that idea, then added, for example, use these people as a reward and award them to bachelors who made contributions to the base. Reward? I don't approve of this inhumane approach. Humane? You think this is before the war? Jiang Chen paused and fell into silence. If you really have moral codes you have to follow, you can enact laws to protect the rights of these people. For example, prohibit intentional harming and reward those who can help these people regain their sanity to join the force. In short, since you are the leader, then you can make these rules. The key is on you decide. After listening to him talking, Jiang Chen looked at him in astonishment. I couldn't tell, but sounds like you know a lot. I just read some books whenever I'm bored. Chunan scratched his nose. Just as Jiang Chen was about to leave, he abruptly halted and casually asked, by the way, do you think these nth-handed people would be wanted? Chunan was at a loss and looked at him perplexedly. Why not? Jiang Chen was speechless. Is this the legendary generation gap? Chapter 127, Execution and Acceptance. This here is a group of pests. They feed on the flesh and bones of our own kind and make our agony as their nutrients. Outside of the Fishbone Base, all the zombies had been wiped out, and the roof was fraught with the survivors who fought side by side with those from Fishbone Base. The bandits were kneeling on the ground with a black cloth over their heads. Behind them was a group of soldiers armed with guns. Black muzzles were aimed at their head, and cold eyes ignored the trembling bodies. October was approaching, and a hint of chilliness was gradually settling in the air. It was at this time that Jiang Chen had put on a windbreaker. Killing, looting, plundering, terrorizing, molesting. He gazed at the eyes of survivors in the crowd, and raised his clenched right fist as righteous indignation spewed forth from his mouth. Now that they are kneeling in front of us, praying for our forgiveness and begging for mercy like cowards, do you think we should spare these scums? No. Shouts and whistles rang across the entire street. Even the zombies next street turned around and stared at the direction of the Fishbone Base. Jiang Chen closed his eyes, lifted both of his hands and motioned the crowd to quiet down. The crowd's noise gradually died down, and everyone's attention was focused on him. This feeling was extremely surreal. He faintly remembered the feeling of being stared at by 30 pairs of anxious eyes in the sewer. The sense of apathy born from absolute control, from knowing that they had the power to control life and death. But now he was respected, worshipped, and lauded by a group of people from the bottom of their hearts. He only felt his blood was boiling, that even the cold breeze could not be able to cool down. Jiang Chen shifted his gaze to the row of bandits about to be executed. I believe you were well aware that this would happen one day when you pointed your gun at helpless people and abused both children and women. No, A surprising scene occurred when a kneeling bandit suddenly got up from the ground and dashed to the alley on the side. Bang! The desperate fleeing bandit hit the ground and left a frightening, bloody hole on his back. Jiang Chen shoved his gun back into his pocket when the smoke from the gun had dissipated. The survivors only saw a series of blurry actions. They couldn't even see Jiang Chen pulling out his gun, let alone the act of shooting. The entire action was so smooth that everyone's face couldn't help but pale. They did not expect that Fishbone Base's boss would not only amass a strong force, but would also possess an unparalleled individual fighting prowess. Needless to say, whether it was power or speed of reaction, Jiang Chen injected with the genetic vaccine was far superior compared to ordinary survivors. That man's escape just now was arranged beforehand. The rope was not tied down to his legs. It was done only to strengthen his prestige through personal force. It was only human nature to worship the strong. Incidentally, this episode was Zhou Guoping's original idea. Fire! The cold words were accompanied with white mist and echoed on the cold street. Gunfire sounded. A group of bodies dropped one by one in the pool of blood, officially ending their wicked lives. Zhao Gang held the rifle in his hand, staring at his enemy who was lying in the pool of blood. Jiang Chen had given him the chance to avenge himself by allowing him to participate in the execution of the bandits. The bandit who was in front of him was the same bastard who led the mercenaries to raid his family, kill his son, and capture and violate his wife. Seeing that the tumor that disrupted the region for so long was finally eradicated, the survivors cheered and raised their rifles celebrating. Jiang Chen enjoyed the cheers of the crowd as he continued to order formalin to be sprayed on these bodies, to be hung at several major intersections in Qingpu to deter those who dared to commit wicked acts. Since then, Qingpu bore Fishbone Base's seal on the map. It was called the Seal of the Order. After dealing with the bandits' affairs, Jiang Chen was preparing to go back to the mansion when he saw a man kneeling in front of him. "What are you?" Jiang Chen paused to ask. "I have nowhere to go. You helped me get my revenge, so my life is yours." Zhao Gang was on his knees with his head lowered. The rifle was propped up on the ground. "Don't you have a wife? Stand up first." "That's exactly the case. We have nowhere to go. Please take us in. I am willing to sell my life to you, even if you want me to die. Zhao Gang will not hesitate," he said in a deep voice. The resolute man did get up and remained kneeling on the ground. Nowhere to go. Jiang Chen had a sudden realization. Winter was coming. Their home had been raided clean, and even if they returned to that empty hut, they would not last through the winter. "Please," Zhao Gang buried his head even lower. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed slightly inside. "Call me boss from now on." Finished, he went past Zhao Gang and went to the base. Zhao Gang was frozen for a moment before an ecstatic expression appeared on his face. He lifted his head and gratefully looked at Jiang Chen's back. In the end, Jiang Chen was still moved with compassion. He headed toward Cheng Weiguo, who was out patrolling with a rifle, patted his shoulder, and pointed at Zhao Gang's direction. "Arrange a place for him to live outside the wall. Tomorrow, take the other two along to the 6th Street for surgery." The other two were obviously Zhou Guoping and Chu Nan, and surgery referred to a slavery chip implant. "Yes," Cheng Weiguo saluted. Jiang Chen nodded with satisfaction, then walked inside the base. There were many things waiting for him to be dealt with. Cheng Weiguo watched his boss leave, swung the rifle behind his back, and walked towards Zhao Gang. "Get up, buddy." Cheng Weiguo put his right hand to drag him up. "You'll have to stay outside of the wall for the night. Tomorrow there will be someone taking you to the 6th Street for a chip implant. Then you and your wife will receive a comfortable room and become part us. Zhao Gang hesitated for a moment. Must everyone be implanted with a slavery chip? Cheng Weiguo seemed to see through his hesitation. He smiled and then pulled out a cigarette from his pocket. Want one? This was one of the benefits of the fishbone base. He hesitantly took the cigarette. Cheng Weiguo grabbed the lighter and lit one for himself. The two then began to smoke in front of the gate. I was hesitant like you in the past. I was only a refugee at the time, and when I was forcefully implanted with slavery chip and got sold to some unknown force in the 6th Street, my heart was full of fear. I don't really care about my life, but I don't understand why my wife would need a slavery chip. Zhao Gang muttered and slowly took a deep inhale. He could accept his wife being humiliated by bandits because it was his own incompetence that caused it, but he could not accept his wife becoming someone else's slave, even if he was willing to sell his life to Fishbone Base. Cheng Weiguo suddenly laughed upon hearing this. He looked confusedly at Cheng Weiguo, not knowing why he laughed. I was like you before. The feeling of my own wife being implanted with slavery chip sure did not feel good. But you are overthinking. The boss is a good person. He never treated us like slaves. My wife is now the cook in the base. He didn't wrong us just because he controlled our lives. Looks like you truly respect him. He looked at Cheng Weiguo in surprise. That's right. I was only a refugee on the verge of death before. And now I am the militia leader of Fishbone Base in charge of the wall defense. He does not only staves off our hunger, but also gives us dignity that we never even think of dreaming. He truly deserves respect. Even if I don't have this thing in my head, I will still swear my allegiance to him. Cheng Weiguo threw away the cigarette butt in his hand, patted him on the shoulder, and grinned at him. Perform well. As long as you prove your worth, our boss will not be cheap with his reward. I can say that in the entire Wangai City, other than some special survival facilities, you can't find any place happier than here. He silently doused the butt of his cigarette and nodded at Cheng Weiguo. MHMM. On the other side, Fishbone Base soldiers started cleaning the execution ground. The survivors had begun to disperse, and the Fishbone Base survivors dragged away more than 20 bodies to the side of the road to be sprayed with formalin. One body, however, was quietly dragged into the base and carried into a cabin. Jiang Chen was sitting in that room. The soldier saluted and stood by the door. The dead body on the ground twitched and raised slowly. It's tiring to fake death. Zhou Guoping pulled the black bag off his head, heaved a few breaths, and exaggeratedly patted his chest. Oh, do you want to try real death then? Jiang Chen grinned mischievously. I'll pass on that. Zhou Guoping smiled wryly and obsequiously looked at his new boss. He had a bulletproof vest on along with a bag of blood under his vest. When Jiang Chen shot him, he fell on the ground faking his own death. Tomorrow I'll take you to the 6th Street to undergo surgery. Until then, you can't take a step out of this room or else. Jiang Chen stood up from the chair, walked to his side, patted his shoulder, and walked out of the room. Watch him. After stopping for a moment at the door, Jiang Chen signaled the soldier on the side. Yes, the soldier saluted. Then Jiang Chen returned to the gate. There were already 2 tents erected near the door. There was barbed wire set up to block the zombies. The zombies in the area had already been wiped out, and the new zombies would take at least a month before they arrive. So this basic fortification was enough to protect the safety of the 3 people outside of the wall. Zhao Gang and his wife were setting up their tent. Chu Nan, the bachelor, was dealing in his own tent. Jiang Chen still had a few things to ask him, so he directly approached him. What? Chu Nan tied the wires together, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and turned around to look at Jiang Chen. Just want to ask you something. I remember you telling me before you are here because your plane crashed. Where was it? Chu Nan looked at Jiang Chen with an odd look. If I tell you the location of the wreckage, will that be considered a significant contribution? Jiang Chen was stupefied, then laughed. Of course, how about a box of canned pure pork? Chu Nan licked his lips but shook his head. I want that woman. Who, if she's in the base, just pursue her yourself. Jiang Chen looked at Chu Nan oddly. She's not in the base. Do you remember Zhou Zioxia? Jiang Chen knitted his eyebrows for a while before finally recalling that name. But the way he was looking at Chu Nan was now even odder. You want her, that RBQ. IHaveAMansion. Chu Nan replied tersely, no longer looking in Jiang Chen's direction. Do whatever you want, Jiang Chen shrugged. Although he didn't know why Chu Nan would be interested in an RBQ, he had no intention of interfering with his personal hobbies. But with her mental state, you better not let her out. IHaveAMansion, I understand, Chu Nan nodded. Could you also take her for an implant tomorrow? She had an excellent combat power before. It's better to put some control. Surprised, Jiang Chen looked at him and nodded. Give me the map. Chu Nan reached out his hand. Jiang Chen took out the computer pen from his pocket and opened the holographic map. Chu Nan skillfully magnified the map, locked it in a certain area, and pressed on the screen. It's right here. If the reinforcement is strong enough, it should still be on the rooftop helipad. Type 51 helicopter is good stuff. There's not a lot even in Liuding town. Because there were only a few survivors near the city center, the helicopter should still be in there. The one near Songjiang, I'll send out a search team. He looked at the dot on the map and nodded before putting away the computer pen. Remember to bring steel wires and a truck. Chu Nan gave one more tip before he got back to fiddling with the barbed wires. Jiang Chen nodded his head. The 3 trucks he got from the mutated human could finally be put to good use. If he could somehow fix the helicopter, Fishbone Base would finally acquire their first aerial unit. The helicopter was something that even the 6th Street had always dreamed of. With a machine gun, it could be an offensive helicopter, and it could carry missiles as well. In any case, there were not many forces with superior high-altitude area defense capability. He could modify the helicopter however he wanted. Mobility wouldn't even need to be considered. In short, he must get his hands on this thing, as it was simply a humongous killing device. After leaving Chu Nan, he immediately found Cheng Weiguo to order him to immediately take 15 people and a truck to get the helicopter back. Bearing in consideration the height of the helicopter, he also looked for a construction team and sent for another 10-person engineering team to accompany them. After dealing with all of these things, he returned to the base once again. Chapter 128, Lin Lin's Lab. With the return of the expedition, Fishbone Base had resumed its former liveliness. The construction of the base was back on track. The construction team began moving batches and batches of construction supplies outside of the wall and started to implement the expansion work as originally planned. The women rescued from Huizhang mercenaries' base were placed in an empty apartment building. Jiang Chen assigned 5 nurses to take care of them and help them regain their sanity. At the same time, the survivors of the base could now utilize the point system to take the person they like home. In principle, Fishbone Base encouraged adoption as a means for them to take responsibility and to help their partner to return to normal. Women who could successfully join their workforce would be rewarded with points. The trading posts in front of the gate reopened after the zombie waves had ended. It was believed that after this incident, there would be an endless stream of survivors that would come and trade here, and the relationship between the Fishbone Base and nearby survivor groups would be strengthened further. The Bullet production line and Hummingbird UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, production line were housed in a metal warehouse, and the 2 military production lines could be put into production after a simple maintenance. So Fishbone Base welcomed its first military factory, and though the production efficiency was not high, it was undoubtedly a good start. After ordering Lu Huisheng to construct a building in the newly developed area as the new site for the military factory, Jiang Chen walked to the direction of the mansion. The UAV terminal could be manufactured from recycled electronic parts, and since Yao Yao was the expert in this area, completing it should not be a problem for her. If she could create a drone system, the base defense and detection capabilities would rise to another level. But the moment he opened the door, he was astounded. Do you know who I am? Lin Lin with her arms akimbo and raised her head confidently. You are. Yao Yao swallowed a mouthful, shrunk her tiny head a little and carefully asked. Me, I am the noble, perfect embodiment of science and technology, digitalized human. Lin Lin smiled arrogantly. She was very pleased with the frightened look on Yao Yao's face. At the moment, Lin Lin's mood was ecstatic that there was only one thought in her mind. The feeling of picking on the weak felt so wonderful. Ha ha ha. However, that elated feeling didn't last for long because she found Jiang Chen standing in the doorway and was looking at her with a faint smile. Lin Lin's mouth twitched stiffly, and her arrogant expression remained frozen on her face. After discovering Jiang Chen, as though Yao Yao had found her savior, she quickly fled behind his back and pouted her mouth looking like she was wronged. Digitalized human, so what? Jiang Chen smiled and stared at the beautiful girl with silver and white hair. I. Lin Lin's mouth started quivering as she recalled the fear for this devil. Where is Sun Jiao? He turned around and rubbed Yao Yao's head indulgently. Sister Sun Jiao was taking a shower, Yao Yao said quietly. Then she looked at Lin Lin's direction, and with a tone full of grievance, continued. Sister Sun Jiao asked me to find her a room, but as soon as Sister Sun Jiao left, she. You bullied my Yao Yao. This was intolerable, especially seeing the timid look like that of a little animal on Yao Yao's face. Jiang Chen's protective tendencies suddenly burst forth. What are you going to do? Lin Lin was trembling and began to retreat back. Her silvery hair quivered, her white was filled with fear. Despite her unearthly beauty, her bad character would only arouse humans' sadistic desire and not their protective instincts. Almost unhesitantly, Jiang Chen took out his EP and then pressed a few keys. A faint static sound emitted from Yao Yao's neck, and the electronic collar opened. Without saying a word, he seized Yao Yao's collar, approached Lin Lin with a leer, ignored her resistance from her flailing fists, and put the collar around her neck. Yao Yao touched her neck with an aggrieved expression. That was the one thing connecting her and brother Jiang Chen, but it got taken away by this strange woman. The more she thought about it, the sadder she got. Her big, adorable eyes began to get watery. No, it's too dangerous. I had always wanted to take it off for a long time. How about giving you a new gift later? When Jiang Chen saw her expression and hurriedly appeased her. Hello, if it is dangerous, why did you put it on me? Lin Lin protested. Who cares about you? Jiang Chen turned around and gave her a ferocious glare, making Lin Lin shrank back in fear again. Yao Yao looked back and forth between the two of them, feeling wronged. Her tiny mouth pouted again. She had a bad feeling about this. It felt like there were more and more opponents. After forcing the unruly Lin Lin to stay put, Jiang Chen took her to the first floor of the study. It was called a study, but there was no book to be found here anymore. The bookshelves were disposed to the backyard as waste, and the room was now filled with experimental apparatus taken from Lin Lin's shelter. Ah, how dare you treat my bobbies this way? Lin Lin tearfully ran and touched her precious instruments. This is your room from now on. Clean it up yourself, Jiang Chen said bluntly with a wicked grin. He swore he had always been a nice person. But for some reason, Lin Lin seemed to be born with please bully me buff. Her favorite was her over-the-top provocation. Lin Lin fiercely glared at him, before correctly placing the equipment upside down on the ground. Oh, so that's how it is. I thought that side was the bottom. Stupid, Lin Lin cursed inaudibly, and was no longer looking at him. The mutated human and death claw body are in the freezer. Your current mission is to dissect them. I want to know exactly what the X2 virus is and what particular effects it would bring to mutants, and also the body stats data of mutated human. That shouldn't be too hard for you, right? When Lin Lin heard this, she haughtily cocked her head. Long silver hair flailed neatly to the side. Why would I help you? If you don't need to eat, you don't really need to help me. Jiang Chen interrupted her words with a bright smile. You. Lin Lin instantly looked like she was severely wronged, but aside from making Jiang Chen felt pleased, there was not the slightest sense of guilt. Who told you to have such a foul temper? Your task has already been given to you, so if there's nothing else, I am going to head out now. By the way, you better be nice to Yao Yao because she is in charge of your food." Jiang Chen laughed and walked towards the door. "Hold on," Lin Lin hurriedly stopped him. "What? If you're going to protest, then it's rejected." Jiang Chen turned to look at her and said rudely, "Where is my bedroom? Just to be clear, I want the best room on the top floor with its own bathroom and facing the south." Lin Lin was reserved at first but started to get carried away the more she went on. Her onyx eyes were flashing with rays of expectation. But Jiang Chen was just silently staring at her with an expression that couldn't be more confused. As though sensing that she was just talking to herself, Lin Lin cautiously looked at Jiang Chen and finally started to accept the reality that she had to yield to him. Lin Lin thought, a wise man does not fight when the odds are against him. As a beauty, I will submit for now, just wait until. Just that she didn't know when would that time come. "Is that okay?" she asked tentatively. Jiang Chen was silent for a long time, then suddenly asked a nonsensical question. "Does a digitalized human need to sleep?" "Of course, I am not a robot," Lin Lin almost cried in devastation. After a brief wiki, Jiang Chen finally understood what kind of existence she was. To put it in simply, she was just an ordinary person before, but because of congenital disease, 40% of her body's tissues were forcibly replaced with electronics. Her brain was installed with nano-components that could connect to her nerve endings, which allowed her brain to operate at computer-level processing speed. The artificial stomach allowed her to digest food at 2 times the efficiency compared to ordinary people, and which could also convert some of the energies into electrical energy storage. And as far as eating and sleeping needs went, there was no obvious difference between her and ordinary people. "So, you're not a robot," Jiang Chen stated while he examined Lin Lin from top to bottom. Because he saw a robot at the 6th Street before, his previous perception made him think that she was a robot. "I assumed you are made out of silicone." "You are made out of silicone." Lin Lin gave him a fierce glare, but when she suddenly remembered she still had things to ask of him, her tone immediately softened and used a frail tone. "That, the room." "Room, it's right here, isn't it?" Jiang Chen's expression looked odd. "What, here? You want me to sleep with a bunch of lab equipment?" Lin Lin jumped up and shouted like a squirrel that had its tail stepped on. "Then why do you think we got you a big room like this? I'll put a bed here in a bit." Jiang Chen rolled his eyes. Ignoring Lin Lin's cry of disappointment, Jiang Chen left the room. The reason why he was bullying her was partly because he wanted to do it from the bottom of his heart. On the other hand, he needed to discipline this girl. There was a spare room in the mansion, but her attitude was beyond abominable. If he were a bit nicer, he was afraid that she would be more unreasonable beyond measure. It would be unwise to spoil her when he must teach her a lesson. When Jiang Chen entered the kitchen, he found Yao Yao, who was cooking dinner. Yao Yao was wearing a pink apron and her right hand was holding a long spoon while intently staring at the pot of stew. The cherry-like mouth was softly humming, and the tender face was filled with a happy smile. "Ah, she is just too cute." Jiang Chen unconsciously covered his nose despite not getting a nosebleed. As if hearing the sound in the doorway, Yao Yao's little ears moved adorably as she turned around to look at the door. Has brother been very busy? Just wait for a little while, the meal is almost done." After seeing it was Jiang Chen, Yao Yao's face turned slightly red, then she turned around and continued to focus on the pot of stew. I'm done. Also, sorry to trouble you, but can you cook one more portion in the future?" Jiang Chen walked to her and rubbed her head like a small pet. I already cooked one more portion." Yao Yao was comfortably enjoying the feeling of the big hand rubbing her head. Jiang Chen couldn't help but smile. Sure enough, Yao Yao is a kind-hearted girl. Even after Lin Lin had bullied her, she was still considerate enough to include Lin Lin's food. "Oh, what kind of gift do you want?" Although he didn't know why Yao Yao was so insistent on the dangerous electronic collar, he still put it on Lin Lin, who definitely needed it more. Yao Yao's face felt hot After a long while, she murmured in a tiny voice, "Could I save it for later?" "Save it? Yao Yao's birthday is in November, so you give it to me by then." She buried her head lower and her voice turned even lower. "Birthday? IHaveAMansion." Jiang Chen nodded and smilingly promised. Chapter 129, Individual Missions. The fancy dinner was comprised of 4 dishes and soup. There was Sun Jiao's favorite soy-braised short ribs as well as Jiang Chen's favorite scrambled eggs, with tomato. Lin Lin was throwing a tantrum by refusing to eat. However, that did not even last for 3 seconds as she was drawn by the intoxicating aroma of the food. With a dejected face, she walked over to the table. Jiang Chen picked up a piece of tender, juicy meat and bit into it. The delicate texture and delicious taste couldn't be better. It might be a tad difficult to tell from Sun Jiao's lack of elegance in eating, but just from looking at Lin Lin's stuffed face despite her extremely picky attitude, it showed Yao Yao's superb culinary skills. Yao Yao's cooking skill is getting better and better. Stunned by the delicacies, Jiang Chen raised his thumb to praise Yao Yao. He, Yao Yao giggled. She embarrassedly lowered her head and her face turned beet red. "Hey, you should also give me some credit. While you were away, it was me who guided Yao Yao on how to cook the dishes better." Sun Jiao's mouth didn't stop for a moment as she shoved more food in her mouth. "You're only responsible for tasting, right?" Jiang Chen ridiculed. I'll give it 80 points," Lin Lin murmured with a voice that only she could hear, then swallowed a mouthful of rice. After dinner, Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao carried their bowls to the kitchen. Lin Lin had wanted to flee right after eating, but was unceremoniously caught by Sun Jiao. Ignoring Lin Lin, who was washing the bowls angrily, Jiang Chen stored the washed bowls in the cupboard and then took Sun Jiao, who had also finished with her task, upstairs. "Is there any bank near Qingpu?" Jiang Chen asked. Trading with Kane military and mercenaries, as well as sending funds to sensitive areas, have a high chance of freezing his Swiss bank accounts. In consideration of the safety of his account, Jiang Chen decided to use the most reliable and most primitive payment method, gold. Therefore, he had to find a way to acquire gold from the apocalypse. "Bank, do you need more gold?" Sun Jiao asked curiously. "Yes," Jiang Chen nodded. Sun Jiao took out the computer pen and skillfully started the holographic map. "There is a pack bank in Songjiang which is not too far away from here. Take some people with you to run a trip for me tomorrow. I need the gold in this bank vault," Jiang Chen said after pondering for a moment and looking at the location on the map. "IHaveAMansion," Sun Jiao nodded and smiled winsomely. "Then I'll be counting on you." Jiang Chen smiled and was about to turn around to discuss with Yao Yao about the UAVs. But then he realized that his clothes were being pulled. Sun Jiao pouted and whispered near his ear, "I took a shower in the afternoon." Jiang Chen suddenly burst out laughing. "What are you laughing at?" Sun Jiao was displeased and gave him a light punch on the chest. "Nothing, I just thought you're adorable." He reached out and caressed her silky black hair. "Cute, I am the queen." Sun Jiao straightened her back and rolled her eyes at him. Sun Jiao evaded his gaze and was suddenly feeling embarrassed. She then forced herself to remain calm. "Do you want to?" Jiang Chen naturally understood what she meant, but then he shook his head. Sun Jiao was stunned. Her hands were on her hips with a displeased countenance. "Why?" "Because we need to be peaceful and loving. When the immortals fight, the mortals suffer," Jiang Chen said helplessly. "I still have something I need to talk to Yao Yao about. Wait for me in the room tonight." Jiang Chen grinned wickedly and gently touched Sun Jiao's face. "Something? It's not what I'm thinking of, right?" Sun Jiao looked suspiciously at him. "Cough, no, you're overthinking. It's about the drones." Jiang Chen coughed embarrassedly. Sun Jiao pouted and suddenly kissed Jiang Chen on the face before jumping aside. "Well, that's all good. You're only allowed to eat Yao Yao only after this miss has been fed." Jiang Chen rolled his eyes at the naughty girl, then turned around to head toward to Yao Yao's room. The door was open. Yao Yao was sitting in front of the table fiddling with the electronic parts. There was a faint shampoo scent in the room. Yao Yao's hair was wet and appeared as though she had just taken a shower. She wore lovely bare pajamas, and a pair of smooth jade-like legs dangling in the stool was swinging happily. Standing at the door, Jiang Chen gently knocked on the door. "Ah, Brother Jiang Chen, what can I do for you?" When she turned around and realized it was Jiang Chen, a soft smile immediately blossomed on her face. "IHaveAMansion, I have a favor to ask of you." He stepped forward and rubbed Yao Yao's head indulgently as usual. Yao Yao looked baffled. Her huge eyes were intently staring at him. He took out the remains of the hummingbird drone that he brought from the underground shelter. "Do you think you can design a control terminal like this drone?" Yao Yao took out the plate-sized drone and carefully examined it on her hand. "Well, it shouldn't be a big deal with a UAV like this. EP can be used as the control terminal as long as the number will not exceed 10. More than that, EP's processor wouldn't be able to handle it." "Well, not a problem. A table-sized processor would do the trick nicely." Yao Yao clapped her hands and nodded adorably. "What materials do you need? I'll be going to 6th Street tomorrow." There are still plenty of electronic parts in the warehouse, but some of the key components are still missing. How about this? I'll give brother a list of things that I need tomorrow morning. Is that okay?" Yao Yao said earnestly. "Certainly." Jiang Chen rubbed Yao Yao's small head. "And one more thing, do you know how to design UAV alert system?" Yao Yao's eyes immediately lit up at the mention of drone warning system. She nodded vigorously. "IHaveAMansion, I have been recently reading books in this area. Leave it to me." Yao Yao confidently raised her head. "Then I'll leave it to you. Does brother have any specifics for the UAV alert system?" Yao Yao grabbed a pen and a piece of paper while earnestly waited for Jiang Chen to open his mouth. Seeing Yao Yao's serious yet adorable expression, Jiang Chen couldn't help but smile. "My specific requirement is that the 100 UAVs should be able to automatically carry out patrol mission. It should be able to use the terminal to design patrol route. It should be able to avoid obstructions and immediately respond to enemies' attacks. Also, it would be best to add face recognition systems as well as heat source analysis system." After passing the details, he then left Yao Yao's room. Though the moment he stepped out, he always felt there was some kind of resentment on Yao Yao's face. Chapter 130, Thriving. The next morning, Jiang Chen personally led a group of 5 who needed an injection, as well as 5 fishbone soldiers into 6th Street. He chose to go with a team because first, he was curious about any changes 6th Street had undergone after the crusade, and 2, for market research purposes. Now that 6th Street's purchasing power increased, the goods they traded with them would no longer be limited to food. Once the initial burst of rapid production settled down, the highly utilized production lines would equip everyone with potent weapons, lowering the demand for firearms because of the market's surplus. An increased hunting ability meant the number of acquired crystals would rise as well. Survivors would even expand the hunting radius and venture into the city center to obtain more crystals. After food, the most basic necessity, was fulfilled, people with a pocket full of crystals would begin to look for ways to increase their quality of life. With demand for other goods, numerous small factories would emerge like bamboo sprouts after the rain. Small workshops would gradually expand based on market demand, and a variety of other products would fill the store shelves. Small talk between friends would change from, "Did you get any nutrient supply today?" to, "How many crystals did you get today?" Order would appear once more on this part of land. Prosperity would return under freedom. But the catalyst behind these changes was a war that lasted a mere few days. "Welcome to 6th Street, my friend." Zhao Chenwu held a cigar in his mouth as he extended his arms to Jiang Chen from a few paces away. "Nice to see you again. Did you get a return on the money you invested on me?" Jiang Chen laughed. "Of course." Zhao Chenwu handed him a cigar, delicacy from before the war, 10 crystals for one. He didn't have to think about it. Since Jiang Chen stood here, that meant the danger to Fishbone Base was alleviated, and the batch of food was transported into Wangai City. Jiang Chen took the cigar and lit it up. After being injected with the genetic vaccine, his smoking addiction was now almost gone, but it was hard to refuse the offer. "Seems like you've made some money," Jiang Chen laughed. "That's right, and about to make more." Zhao Chenwu cracked a smile, then warmly placed his hand around Jiang Chen's shoulder. "Let's go. It's pretty cold outside. We'll talk in the car." The 5 who needed the injections were taken by Zhao Chenwu's people to the clinic, while the accompanying soldiers returned to the base. He clambered onto Zhao Chenwu's vehicle, and they drove towards the inner circle. "So, my friend, what wind blows you here?" Zhao Chenwu looked at Jiang Chen with a bright smile. Orders were normally completed through transmission, and details that needed to be sorted out could be done through an augmented reality conference. 1. I needed to bring some new people to be injected, and 2. to see any progress made and deliver the order. Jiang Chen glanced out of the car and gave the graphene card to Zhao Chenwu. It was the same wide gate, and through it the daunting cannon remained unchanged, but the malnourished faces were now full of confidence. Construction materials lay in emptied spots as construction vehicles busied themselves outside 6th Street working on what seemed to be an expansion project. There were barely any people in the ghetto, making it feel quite empty. Zhao Chenwu could sense Jiang Chen's shock. He smiled while holding the graphene card and pressed the initiate button. He said casually, "These buildings are part of the newly expanded industrial area. The wall needs to be expanded out by several hundred meters, and the ghetto no longer sells people ever since the council pushed out a new regulation to start a buyback of the ghetto refugees." Buyback? Jiang Chen was unfamiliar with this new term. Anyone registered in 6th Street can be repurchased for the price of 10 crystals. The repurchased refugees are not permitted to leave 6th Street, but they'll work at the factory of whoever bought them back for 3 years before obtaining their freedom. So population trade is no longer supported. Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Officially, yes. Refugees are no longer the burden of 6th Street, but I do recommend that you go to the free market. There are plenty of merchants from other survival camps with slave dealers specialized in that business. Zhao Chenwu scrolled through the list on the graphene card to confirm Jiang Chen's order. 500 Reaper rifles, 20 Ghost snipers, 500 bulletproof vests, 4 boxes of regular grenades, general combat equipment, 520 machine guns. That's a lot. Are you planning on creating an army? Zhao Chenwu asked perplexedly. Shipping out of the province, Jiang Chen replied concisely. It's true that it's being traded to the modern world. Okay, but with quantities like this, let's push the trade date to the 10th. I still need a bit more, so I'll have to make an order to the factory. Zhao Chenwu took out a paper-thin phone from his pocket and pressed a few buttons. 1,000 jackets, 1,000 snow boots, 20 tons of C-type steel, 10 tons of carm tree sap. These are easy, I can get the bulk price. Zhao Chenwu read through the list. Carm tree sap was obtained from the mutated carm tree. It was used as the raw material for multiple types of plastics, an industrial material common on the wasteland. Although the polluted soil could not produce any edible crops, plants that survived through natural selection remained, and 6th Street had a few small tree farms specifically dedicated to producing this tree sap. Together with the sap and C-type steel, as well as the electronic parts obtained through the survivor groups, most of the components required to manufacture the Hummingbird drone would be collected. Then I'll leave it to you. The trade date is set for the 10th then. This batch should be sufficient for 3 months, so the next trade should be set for the following January. Jiang Chen smiled. No problem, Zhao Chenwu nodded in reply. The car drove to the inner circle and stopped in front of a restaurant called Lihua. Zhao Chenwu explained that it was his restaurant in the inner circle. Jiang Chen gladly accepted the invitation for lunch, but when the dishes were brought out, he was shocked. Curry chicken, potato, pork, vinegar, cabbage. 3 dishes in total, 2 types of meat and 1 vegetable. The problem was not the dishes themselves, but they were all canned food. Jiang Chen was taken aback at Zhao Chenwu's eagerness to eat. When comparing the quality of life, the respected council member of 6th Street ate worse than the modern-day homeless man. Jiang Chen ate until he was 80% full. He sat in a luxuriously renovated restaurant, eating starchy bread and microwaved canned dishes. It was quite a comical feeling, especially since the person sitting across from him was devouring the meal. After the meal, Zhao Chenwu used a napkin to wipe his mouth before leaning back against the chair with a smile at Jiang Chen. I do have to praise Fishbone Base's food. It's delicious. Thank you, Jiang Chen smiled. Oh, since you're here, I have something you may be interested in. As if he suddenly remembered something, Zhao Chenwu sat upright in his chair and lowered his voice. Oh, what is it? Seeing this, Jiang Chen became solemn as well. This man was part of a group of 10 council members. The news he was leaking had to be taken seriously. Zhao Chenwu smiled mysteriously as he dropped a bomb on Jiang Chen. Based on 6th Street's new proposal, we're about to establish a bank. The feasibility of the proposal is still under debate, but it will most likely happen. A bank? Jiang Chen was stunned. Opening a bank in the apocalypse, what is this? The average income is steadily increasing, so it's a necessity for 6th Street, especially since we have the capability to do so. People can store unused crystals in the bank to acquire an interest, and startup factories can borrow crystals to invest in the plant. The blood is already flowing, now we just need a heart. Zhao Chenwu laughed confidently as he shot an energetic gaze at Jiang Chen. In the future, the introduction of the bank would likely begin a tidal wave of new factories. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. Not a bad idea, but does it have anything to do with me? Of course. Zhao Chenwu smiled, lowering his voice and continuing, don't you want to be a shareholder of this bank? It was an interesting way to phrase the question. Jiang Chen's expression turned strange when he heard Zhao Chenwu. He asked rhetorically, don't you want to be? If there is something good like this, you would be kind enough to ask me. Guessing at Jiang Chen's thoughts, Zhao Chenwu continued, of course, but based on the regulation, the council members' share limit is set at 7%, each contributing 100,000 crystals. The remaining would be sold to the public at a premium. So what you're saying is that your cake has already been divided, so you thought about your old friend me. Jiang Chen laughed. That's right, are you interested? Zhao Chenwu crossed his fingers as he stared at Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen didn't immediately answer, but rather scratched his chin as he thought. The 10 council members are each limited to 7%. Therefore, their influence is equal to one another. This is to prevent one person from exerting too much influence on the decisions of the group. The reason why Zhao Chenwu leaked the information to me is in the hopes of having me purchase some shares. Because of our alliance, he would obtain more influence in the bank. Since my orientation remains in the headquarters, I shouldn't care about influence but only bank dividend. Considering 6th Street's recent developments, this bank posed significant meanings, or else Zhao Chenwu wouldn't have become so involved in it. It was the heart that would become the bloodline. A mischievous smile grew on Jiang Chen's face as he had made a decision. He realized he was becoming more skilled at politics. And the bank's investment criteria is, Jiang Chen asked stoically. Provide the factory, store, developer, mercenaries, and a potential hunting team with loans, Zhao Chenwu replied. What about the purchase requirement? Zhao Chenwu immediately smiled upon hearing Jiang Chen's question. He could tell Jiang Chen was tempted. 1% of the share is 20,000 crystals. The purchaser is required to have at least 200 square meters of fixed assets on 6th Street. Also, they must be a free person without any chip injections. Jiang Chen burst out laughing and extended his right hand. Thank you for the information. I'm very interested. If the proposal passes, let me know. Definitely. We share the same interests, don't we? Zhao Chenwu grasped Jiang Chen's hand and shook it forcefully. Of course. Chapter 131, Rocket. Coming out of Lihua, Jiang Chen rejected Zhao Chenwu's invitation to stay in Paradise Island Hotel at no expense and walked straight to the Development Bureau. The inner circle had drastically changed. He remembered a few months ago, when he first came here, The only things that had left an impression on him were the spider tank and the fully equipped soldiers. Now, however, there were pedestrians in flamboyant clothing. The radiation dust in the air felt depressing as ever, but a touch of liveliness permeated the entire camp. Prosperity. Zhao Chenwu's high-end car was no longer unique. Fewer armored vehicles patrolled the streets now taken up by personal vehicles. Along the busiest street were building expansions here and there. After displaying his genetic ID to the patrolling soldiers, Jiang Chen entered the hall. "Hello, sir. Is there anything I can help you with?" A receptionist at the front desk said professionally while twirling a pen. "I'd like to buy a few plots of land to open a factory," he said casually as he flipped through the promotional materials on the desk. He was obviously not building a factory. It was fine as long as he built a warehouse. The key was to settle the 200 square meter criteria. 6th Street was about to establish the first bank, and 30% of the shares would be sold. The cake was too attractive to pass on. Imagining the scenario, the total number of factories and small production facilities numbered fewer than 20. But now that the average wealth increased exponentially, how tremendous would the economy boom be? It was no exaggeration to say that 20 would increase by at least 5-fold within a year, and establishing a bank would only speed up this process. How many people would need a loan then? It was a guaranteed return. Purchasing assets. Thank you for choosing to invest in 6th Street. But sir, currently, the land available for development have been sold out. Maybe you could consider purchasing for existing owners. Sold out this fast? Jiang Chen was shocked. He expected land development to be attractive, but he didn't expect the plots to be sold out so quickly. Jiang Chen frowned slightly, thinking a bit before continuing. Are there any assets available for sale right now? Anywhere works. The receptionist was at a loss when she heard his words and gave him a strange look. Perhaps, why don't you go to the market and ask in the consignment exchange? The bulk items and fixed assets were normally sold on consignment at the exchange. The seller normally provided the sale information while storing the related goods or property within the exchange. A buyer with the intent to purchase would then take the information and discuss a price with the seller in a meeting. Once the transaction was completed, the buyer only needed to bring the crystals to the exchange to walk away with the purchased goods. Jiang Chen held such a sheet of information in his hands with the words, "Store for sale, price negotiable" written on it. Jiang Chen paused in front of a building, examining the storefront. Perhaps to save on electricity, the words "Fake Legs Specialty Store" were redundantly written out on the electronic board in black ink. There was a layer of dust on the wooden window, and the rusty door made out of scrapped shells looked worn down. He hesitantly raised his hand, and just as he was about to knock, the door was dragged open. A small square TV abruptly appeared before him, nearly startling Jiang Chen into pulling out his gun. The metal-plated mouth rapidly opened and closed, stuttering in a squeaky electronic voice, "Welcome, valued customer. The shop provides mechanical legs and mechanical prosthetic installations with outstanding services for wastelander who accidentally break their limbs." He stared at the robot. Its head and body were connected by a spring, and he began to understand why there were no customers. With such reception, it would be astonishing if a customer did show up. He pushed the junk robot aside and stepped into the store. The room was dimly lit. The faint odor of machine oil was in the air. The wall displayed an array of unknown electronic parts and equipment. There was, however, nobody manning the front. Jiang Chen scanned the room, calling out, "Is anyone here?" No reply. No one, or busy with something else. He hesitated briefly before going up the stairs at the back of the store. The top landing was the attic, and from the open door he heard mutters and occasional, unsettling explosions. Is it a problem with the central processor? No, should be the engine control unit. The door and roof were wide open. The room was filled with an odd assortment of equipment, and in the corner was a small telescope beside a full-sensory sky map. In the middle of the room there was a 2-meter-wide space, a cylinder as tall as two people, a pointed head. Rocket! The young man, who was working with a screwdriver in hand, was interrupted by the surprised voice and looked in the direction of the door. That's right, it is a rocket. He threw the screwdriver to the side, rubbed his messy and oily hair, and smiled. Jiang Chen examined the rocket as tall as two people and burst out laughing. Haha, someone finally understands the beauty of my design. The person clearly misunderstood, his expression excited as he opened his arms towards Jiang Chen. He smoothly avoided the hug from a man who obviously hadn't showered in a few days. Jiang Chen cleared his throat. The purpose of my trip is investment, right? I know. No, you seem to have me's. SHH, the man suddenly gestured for silence. With a mysterious expression, he waved at Jiang Chen. Let me take you to see something fun. The man quickly sauntered to the corner of the room. Jiang Chen gave the man a strange look, but eventually followed after a moment's hesitation. Power system normal, hydraulic balance normal, fuel normal. He muttered abstrusely as he typed rapidly on the silicagel touch board. His eyes were filled with a passionate light. Jiang Chen stood behind him and examined the sophisticated monitors. You are. Ignite! The excited roar startled Jiang Chen and interrupted his question. The hand slapped onto a red button. Boom! The fire erupted from the middle of the room, the scorching flames burning against the base made of unknown metal. The floor began to shake violently, and the window panes screeched. Gusts battered at them, and Jiang Chen had to cover his face from the rapid air flow. Between his fingers, his astonished expression could be seen. What the fuck, what the plane are you doing? Similar to what the heck you are doing. It's a rocket, space, here I come. Haha, launch. Against the violent airflow, the man struggled to maintain his balance. He placed his hand over the trigger and pushed it to the top. The air pressure increased explosively, pressing the man immediately to the ground. Jiang Chen, with his strong body condition, barely managed to remain on his feet. Just as he was about to fall, he activated the nitrogen armor on his right arm. The nitrogen armor burst out and expanded from his right arm. The special field created by the nitrogen created a decompression zone that deflected the air flow. The force was immediately canceled out. Thanks, buddy. The young man barely managed to hold onto his body as he smiled awkwardly. Jiang Chen deactivated the nitrogen armor and glanced at the shadow already high in the sky. He threw a dirty look at the young man. Are you stupid? Firing a rocket from the room? What shocked him even more was that future technology allowed rockets to be launched from indoors. How advanced were the materials and fuel technology? The man gave a forced laugh as he rubbed at his messy hair. It's okay. 6th Street doesn't prohibit shooting things into the air. Jiang Chen was speechless. Patting at his musk clothes, the man cleared his throat and extended his right hand. Jiang Lin, owner of 6th Street's fake leg specialty store. After a brief pause, Jiang Chen shook hands with him and then looked at him strangely. Fake leg? Can you tell me how fake legs are connected to rockets? Jiang Lin smiled, slightly embarrassed. The fake leg store was opened by my dad. And now, although he asked, Jiang Chen had already guessed what happened. The son didn't continue his father's business, putting it aside to begin working on rockets. I'm not very good at that job. He shrugged, appearing forlorn, but then he waved his hand at Jiang Chen with renewed interest. Let me show you something cool. Jiang Lin left Jiang Chen again and hastily walked to the other side of the room. At a loss, Jiang Chen let out a defeated sigh before following. Based on the program settings, my Explorer 8 with the highest speed in the universe entered the orbit. Look. Jiang Lin's fingers pressed a few buttons on the touch board. Vibrant lights from the cylindrical image formation device began to interweave, creating a magnificent visual image. This is our planet. Jiang Lin spread his arms with a grin and hugged the imaginary visuals. He then turned around to Jiang Chen with proudly raised eyebrows. Jiang Chen's pupils contracted as he shook in disbelief. Wow, this is fucking amazing. Blue and yellow. It was his first time observing this land. Other than the colors, it was no different from the other world. The colors belonged to the ocean, and the clouds that were supposed to be white was instead mixed in with an unhealthy shade. This was the radiation dust, chemical dust, as well as industrial pollutants. Towards the northwest, the soil was dark green, supposedly belonging to a type of mutated plant. He remembered Sun Jiao mentioning before that there was an alliance to the north. On the south, the daunting, pitch black belonged to scorched earth. Because the rocket was close to the orbiting path and synchronized with the Earth's orbit, it could only view the areas in Asia, but the situation was likely no better on the other side of the Earth. From multiple perspectives, this planet is not suitable for human inhabitants. Despite the dark words, Jiang Lin's voice was calm. He then pressed a few more times on the touchboard, causing the screen's perspective to suddenly change. This is... Jiang Chen shook himself out of his astonishment and stared at the belt of debris on the full sensory map. Space junk around the orbit that formed a belt close to Earth. The Third World War was not only fought on the surface. Jiang Lin smiled, then enlarged the image from Explorer 8. Most of the debris comes from sky-based weapons, space stations, satellites, as well as orbit attack shops and anti-satellite missiles. Part of the debris is also from the moon facility that was sent near the Earth's orbit from the force of the explosion. Sky-based weapons, such as God's cane. He suddenly recalled the diary he had read before. Observing the chunks of metal debris, his expression held shock. But not because of the severity of the war. Chapter 132. Sorry, I am a businessman. Not because of the severity of the war, but because of the money. Any piece of debris out there was hundreds of years ahead of the modern-day world's space technology. If he sold it, actually, it would likely be difficult to sell. Realizing this, Jiang Chen forced a smile. Just as he was about to give up the idea of digging for gold in space, he changed his mind. He thought, while it would be difficult to sell, what if he used it for himself? Once he acquired the island, he would be able to use his country's name to release a satellite, and that would be interesting. That's about it. Jiang Lin abruptly sighed, and the full hologram faded away. After a pause, Jiang Chen couldn't help asking, "What happened? Didn't your rocket launch successfully?" Jiang Lin shrugged and looked at Jiang Chen. It did launch successfully, but the nearby orbit is filled with magnetic pulses. You could say that it's nearly impossible to defend against EMP. Just by lasting this long, Explorer 8 has already reached its limit. Explorer 7 lasted only 10 seconds. Then what's point of firing this? Increase space debris. Jiang Chen glanced back at him. How could this be pointless? This is valuable data. Seeing his research being devalued, Jiang Lin immediately became displeased. He pressed a few more times on the touch board, releasing an image on the full sensory screen again, but this time, there was data that Jiang Chen couldn't make heads or tails of. Am I allowed to know what this data will be used for? Jiang Chen looked over the floating green dots with an odd expression. Preparation for interstellar travel. Zeal flickered in Jiang Lin's eyes. Jiang Chen was speechless. Interstellar travel. That's right. In 2176, the United Nations sent out 6 immigration ships into space, the nearest destination being Kepler B and Alpha Centauri, 13 light-years away from Earth. So you're telling me that this firework can fly for 13 light-years, and you're prepared to send this firework to find the authority at Kepler B. What firework? This is called Explorer 8, and of course I'm not going to send this to Kepler B. But isn't this space exploration? Experiment, collect data, make improvements. Now, after countless trials, I'm already here. Jiang Lin confidently pushed another button. What is this? Jiang Chen asked, confused from the diagram filled with data. Warp engine concept map, but because of funding problems, it's only 50% completed, hee. Jiang Lin scratched his head, abashed, and looked at Jiang Chen expectantly. What do you think? The warp engine can achieve speed faster than light, and there will be hibernation chambers to help pass the time on the journey. Are you interested? A short silence. I'd like to understand something. Does this have anything to do with me buying the property? Jiang Lin was unable to process Jiang Chen's meaning as he stared at him blankly. What? Jiang Chen took out the sheet of information and pointed at it. Store for sale, price negotiable. I don't think I came in through the wrong door. Jiang Lin's face immediately flushed, and he mumbled to himself, No, they can't do this. He swiftly seized Jiang Chen's hand as if it was his last chance. Did you see the sign in front? Interstellar travel. Are you not interested in it? A world free of radiation, a brand new civilization, as long as you're willing to invest in my project. Sorry, I already have that world. I'm very sorry, I'm a businessman. Jiang Chen shrugged. I don't see any potential profits from your project. I'm happy living here and I don't have any plans to fly into space. But, no buts, looks like you're not the owner of this building, or do you rent a place here? Jiang Chen sighed. Abrupt footsteps sounded from downstairs that rapidly approached them. Jiang Lin, how many times have I told you don't build rockets in my fucking house? A large man in a suit said viciously as he squeezed through the door, wiping his face. I built a launch base. It won't damage the structure of the building, so your worry is. The man didn't seem interested in arguing with him. He rubbed his temples and said wryly, I don't care. Pay your 2 months of rent, then take your junk and get out of my house. Jiang Lin's face immediately paled as he said, You can't. This is my house. The meaty man pointed at his nose, the few remaining hairs on his bald head nearly standing on end from fury. Calm yourself, Mr. Gu. We'll follow the procedure. A man in a black combat suit holding an automatic rifle strolled through the door and looked at Jiang Lin. Hello, Mr. Jiang. I am the enforcer of 6th Street. Based on the minimum, you must pay a total of 68 crystals to Mr. Gu Honkai, or else the enforcement agency has the right to take action. Additionally, because the rental contract has been terminated, please move out within 3 days. Otherwise, the enforcement agency will have to resort to forceful measures. But I don't have that much money, Jiang Lin stuttered. Sorry, this is the law. Over the next 3 days, you're prohibited from leaving the house unless you're able to repay the debt. The enforcer shrugged and turned to Gu Honkai. Are you pleased with the proceedings? Very pleased. Gu Honkai didn't dare to get angry at the enforcer. He glared at the pale Jiang Lin, jabbing a finger at his face viciously. You better get the money ready, or... Jiang Chen, who was standing off to the side, suddenly interrupted him and said with some frustration, Are you the owner of the house? Pausing, Gu Honkai raised his eyebrows at Jiang Chen. You are. Jiang Chen, if this information belongs to you, we can talk about the price now. Jiang Chen retrieved the information sheet and pointed at it. Gu Honkai's eyes lit up immediately, and he smiled widely with sudden energy. Mr. Jiang would like to buy the house. Good, good. Let's have a nice chat at the bar. Since the problem is solved, I'll take my leave now. Gentlemen, I wish you a good day. The enforcer took out a ticket from his pocket and passed it to Jiang Lin before retreating downstairs. No need to go to the bar, Jiang Chen shook his head and refused. Let's talk here. Give me a price, and if it's reasonable, we can finish the deal now. The rejected Gu Honkai did not look the slightest displeased. Rather, his smile brightened further. He needed money to buy newly developed land to build a factory, hire hunting teams to head to the industrial area outside of the city to obtain production equipment, purchase raw materials, put in crystals to start production. Assets in the market. This store was not his only one, and making rent was not nearly as profitable as opening a factory. He was unaware of 6th Street's plan to open a bank, or else he would not have sold this property so cheaply. A buyer this straightforward was uncommon. After a moment's hesitation, Gu Honkai threw out a reasonable price to test the waters. Based on 6th Street's development trajectory, my shop is at the center of the market. Combined with the warehouse in the back and a total area of 300 square meters, I want a total of 6,900 crystals. The rent was 34 crystals a month, and with a rent-to-house price ratio hovering around 200, it was a reasonable number. After some thought, Jiang Chen nodded. Selling a property in this high-potential area meant that Gu Honkai needed some quick money. His eyes flashing, Jiang Chen opened his mouth. "No problem, I'll pay the 6,900 crystals in one lump sum. But I have one requirement, put his debt under my name." Gu Honkai calculated in his mind. 68 was not a small amount, but since he needed the money, he couldn't be bothered with it anymore. Gu Honkai glanced at Jiang Lin before smiling and turning to Jiang Chen. "Okay, as per Mr. Jiang request, the debt will be transferred to your name." Jiang Chen nodded, then took the agreement passed over. He carefully scanned a few times before signing his name. He only needed to go to the exchange to pay the sum in order to obtain the property. 6,900 was not a small number, and most ordinary people would be unable to carry around such an amount. With the development of the economy, a bank was almost certainly necessary. Of course, with his storage dimension, Jiang Chen was an exception. Seeing Gu Honkai, his debt owner, leave, Jiang Lin sighed and wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Thanks, buddy. If not for you, I don't know how I would have taken care of this." Jiang Chen grabbed the debt ownership in hand and looked at Jiang Lin with a half-smile. "Thank me, too early for that." Jiang Lin perplexedly looked at Jiang Chen. "The change in debt ownership doesn't mean the debt's been eliminated. Now you owe me 68 crystals." Jiang Lin's face that had just regained signs of life lost color once more. I don't have money," he gritted out. Jiang Chen didn't seem surprised at his response. He shrugged and continued, "You have two choices. One, sell all assets in the store for cash. Considering the popularity of the firearm industry, there's a high demand for raw metal materials. These objects could be sold at junk price, no problem." Hearing that his goodies would be sold as junk, Jiang Lin immediately roared, "No way, don't even think about it. My equipment is worth at least 10,000. This is the door to the new world. Do you know the value of these things? Since you're a merchant, there's no way that you don't." Jiang Chen patiently waited for him to finish his spiel before smirking at Jiang Lin, who felt a chill run down his spine. Jiang Chen drawled, 10,000. Without recognition from the market, it's only wishful thinking. I can say my hair is worth billions, but who would buy it? Without a buyer, there's no value. In my opinion, why our junk is not even worth 30 crystals. Fly to space. How many crystals have to be invested for that? How many years? With this small scale, it would take you 100 years before you can fly out of the solar system. Kepler B, are you sure the ex-authorities are doing well out there? Are you certain you'll be welcomed? I'm sorry, but I'm a businessman. Word for word, Jiang Chen repeated his sentence, and they pierced Jiang Lin's heart like fine needles. His lips were bitten until they lost all color. With his research deemed as worthless, his heart was filled with rage, but he forced himself to suppress it. Jiang Chen's words woke him from his dream. No one would pay for his dream. Even if this equipment cost him hundreds of crystals, ordered from mercenaries who obtained them from the National Planetarium, no one would recognize the value of his work because it was unnecessary. He began to regret. If he wasn't so stubborn about leaving his father's business to die, if he didn't spend all of his efforts on space exploration, he would not be in this situation where he couldn't even afford rent. Jiang Lin breathed in deeply. He said quietly, "Can I hear the second option?" Finally hearing signs of maturity in that voice, Jiang Chen smiled. An immature dream was indeed not worth the investment, but a mature scientist was. Second option, work for me. Chapter 133. Your eyes should grow on your own head. Work for you? Jiang Lin hesitated as he gave Jiang Chen a perplexed look. Work in your factory. No. Jiang Chen held up a finger and shook it, staring straight into Jiang Lin's eyes. Come to my survival camp. I'll invest in your space project, but you'll have to follow my requirements. Jiang Lin looked suspiciously at Jiang Chen. A survival camp. I haven't left 6th Street that often, but it's not like I don't have a clue about the outside world. Who says your camp isn't a gathering of bandits? What if I become a slave going in? Jiang Chen smiled and walked up to Jiang Lin to pat his shoulder. Slave, Do you know how much it costs to buy a slave from the ghetto? Jiang Lin gulped. Before the slave trade was halted, including the microchip which costs 19 crystals, the price for a slave was as high as 50 crystals. Then do you think I need to spend 68 crystals to buy someone who has never done hard labor? Jiang Chen smiled. I don't plan on negotiating with you. You only have two options. Sell your dream as scraps and go work at the factory to pay off the remaining crystals, or sell your dream to me, and I'll provide you with resources and directions. All you need to do is install a chip on your neck. Listening to Jiang Chen speak, Jiang Lin's inner turmoil could be seen in his eyes, but in the end he sighed in compromise. Before Jiang Chen's pleased gaze, he opened his mouth to say, I choose to. Since Jiang Lin had already nodded in agreement, the rest was fairly simple. Jiang Chen arranged for him to pack everything and then sent him to the clinic for injection. On the 10th, when they were to conduct the trade with the Zhao Corporation, Zhao Chenwu would send the people and the goods together. As for the store's new purpose, Jiang Chen had yet to think of a solution, but he went ahead and hired construction workers to seal the open roof. Since winter was coming, a tent that only shielded from rain did not seem reliable at all. Overall, the criteria of having a 200 square meter fixed asset were met for him to join 6th Street Bank. The next morning, Jiang Chen took Jiang Lin to the hospital. After paying a hospital fee of 19 crystals, Jiang Chen watched as the doctor reached the end of the hallway while he met up with the 5 people who were just exiting the rehabilitation room. Due to the chip's installation into the neural network, interference from the electric parts was inevitable. Therefore, after the injection, they were required to spend a few hours in rehabilitation, which they had just clearly finished, before being released from the hospital. Chu Nan saw Jiang Chen from afar and greeted him. Zhou Guoping had the same simpering smile, and Zhao Gang held his wife in silence. Zhou Xiaoxia's vision seemed to lag, as though she'd been injected with a tranquilizer. How are you feeling? Not bad, Chu Nan shrugged. Try your EP. A doctor in a white coat walked over and gave a nail-sized memory card to Jiang Chen, before beating a hasty retreat to the surgery room. Holding the memory card in hand, Jiang Chen inserted it into the EP on his wrist. He noticed that while it was loading, Chu Nan's eyes stayed on the loading bar. Missing your freedom, Jiang Chen joked. Chu Nan smiled, then glanced away. What's freedom? From the moment I was born, I fought for one power and now I changed to another one. The bar finished loading. Seeing the word slavery chip online hovering on the screen, Jiang Chen grabbed the memory card and crushed it. Freedom is a good thing. Within certain boundaries, I'll grant you enough of it. Jiang Chen smiled at Chu Nan as he pressed buttons on the EP. Jiang Chen's face surfaced on the screen in a clear image. He was connected to Chu Nan's vision. Chu Nan rubbed his temple. Is this a neural injection? 6th Street slavery chip is quite intriguing. Liuding Town doesn't have this. Jiang Chen asked casually as he selected the option to end the connection. No, we have more opportunity to fight long distance with few chances to battle on foot. We call it the dictator chip. It emphasizes communication and remote sensors, but it doesn't seem to be as stable as this one. It's controlled by the central processor on the ship and will grant control to someone's EP only under special permission. Chu Nan moved his limbs and gradually accustomed himself to the feeling. What about you guys? Jiang Chen asked as he surveyed the remaining 4 people. Zhu Guoping, with his shiny, bald head, continued his attempts to flatter. Very good. I pledge allegiance to the boss. Zhao Gang's wife was a bit frightened and hid behind Zhao Gang's back. As he comforted her, he said solemnly, not bad. Zhu Xiaoxia, as usual, had the same blank expression. Some conversations were not meant for a public hearing. After confirming the chip's functionality, Jiang Chen took all 5 of them to the fake legs specialty store. Once they all arrived, Jiang Chen closed the door behind him. Seeing that the boss had something to say, Zhou Guoping's eyes rolled cleverly before he moved a chair for Jiang Chen to sit on from behind the counter. Chu Nan glanced at him and turned away disdainfully. Their conflict started over a month ago, but now that they worked under the same boss, there was no longer any opportunity to seek revenge. Zhao Gang held his wife's hand and stood off to the side in silence. "I've arranged a few things, so listen up and follow." Jiang Chen sat on the chair without caring for appearance. "Zhao Gang, take your wife back to the base and join the civil army while waiting for further orders." "I understand." "Chunan, since you're familiar with the helicopter, go purchase whatever's necessary for repairs. Then take her back." Jiang Chen pointed at Josiah Oxia, who had yet to regain consciousness. "No problem, but I don't have a single crystal on me." Chunan opened his palms helplessly. Under Chunan's shocked gaze, Jiang Chen grabbed 200 crystals from his pocket and threw it at him before clapping his hands. "Okay, get moving." The four immediately left, leaving Zhou Guoping at a loss. Seeing Jiang Chen stay silent, Zhou Guoping stayed true to his servile character and proactively asked with a simpering smile, "Boss, what about me? I heard that during your time working for the Huizhang mercenaries, you were stationed in 6th Street. You must be pretty familiar with the area." Jiang Chen leaned back, fingers crossed, and smiled decisively at Zhou Guoping. "He, of course. Boss, what would you like to know?" Zhou Guoping patted his chest confidently. "Do you know any slave merchants?" Zhou Guoping immediately nodded and said attentively, Yes. There is a slave merchant from Sioux City in 6th Street. There are also clones from the 71 survival base, but because of production problems, they must be ordered beforehand. The good thing is that they are all original." "What are you thinking about? Whether it's original or not," Jiang Chen jokingly cursed. "I'm not planning on doing that." Boss, if you want, you can have some fun in New Ray Hotel. Once you train the newly produced clones a little, they're exactly like sex dolls." Zhou Guoping smiled lewdly. "Okay, I'm talking to you about a serious matter," Jiang Chen interrupted with a frown. Yes. "Contact the slave merchant. The base still needs 200 people. How much should the price be?" Zhou Guoping thought for a moment. "If they're ordinary slaves, 10 crystals each would be enough. If you're looking at Fallout Shelter 71's product, then probably 20 crystals. Considering the market at 6th Street, the population price could double." "That's fine. Go ahead and contact them. Transportation is difficult during the winter, so put the order in first and ship them here next year. Try to lower the price as much as you can. It's time to test your ability." Zhou Guoping laughed and smacked his chest with confidence. "Don't worry, boss. You can count on me." Once the population business was taken care of, it was now time to discuss the store's purpose. "What do you think we should open this store for?" Jiang Chen asked as he scanned the decoration in the store. Zhou Guoping's eyes rolled a bit and he scratched his head. "That's up to what the boss wants. If it's to make money, then a food store would definitely be the best choice." Jiang Chen thought for a bit before shaking his head. "Not a food store. Zhao Chenwu has already taken care of 6th Street's food business. Fishbone Base needed an alliance, and therefore it was necessary to give up part of the profit. From now on, Zhao Chenwu was a genuine partner. Maintaining the relationship would bring more profit than opening a food store. It was especially pointless to use this store to make money. Fishbone Base had nothing attractive to 6th Street beside food. Other than crystals, Jiang Chen needed more intelligence. From the information on the bank, he realized the importance of gathering intelligence. If Zhao Chenwu didn't leak the information to him, the opportunity to make more than 100,000 crystals would have slipped through his fingers. Since he did not have any agents here, he had to rely on Zhao Chenwu for all events at this location. It was unwise to entrust his eyes to someone else. As Fishbone grew, he needed to consider more factors. "I need you to gather intelligence for me here. Record any information you think valuable. You worked for the Huizhang mercenaries before, so you should be familiar with this type of work." Zhou Guoping smiled self-assuredly, responding immediately with, "Of course, boss. I'm great at this sort of thing. When I used to work for the Huizhang mercenaries, I spent all day in bars and official purchasing centers, recording all of the fat prey and sending the information back. We could open our own bar. There's nothing better in this world than alcohol to make a person spill the truth. Bar? Jiang Chen paused and looked at him with an odd expression. There are bars in the 6th Street. There were no crops to produce the alcohol, so how could there be a bar? It is processed methanol. Just a small quantity is fine. Industrial alcohol is drinkable. What the fuck? The alcoholics in the apocalypse go pretty far. But speaking of this, he forgot that selling alcohol was an excellent way to make money, perhaps even more popular than food. I'll leave the bar to you. Get someone to renovate this place and send me a message when it's done. Don't worry about the alcohol, I'll take care of it. If the alcoholics smelled the scent of beer, wine, and baijiu, would they barrel down the door of the bar? The more he thought about it, the brighter his smile became. Although alcohol was scarce in the apocalypse because of the lack of crops, that was nothing in the modern world. Any store had an abundance of it. Seeing his boss's delighted mood, Zhou Guoping was also secretly happy. His future depended on Jiang Chen. If Jiang Chen was satisfied, then he would be better off. Yes, boss, Zhou Guoping responded and bowed with a flourish. Chapter 134, The Bullet Shell Bar. Off to the side of a store was a door, and on it hung a rotten slat of wood. A few crooked words were carved into it with a dagger, the Bullet Shell Bar. This was the place Zhou Guoping had talked about. According to him, it was an entertainment hub of 6th Street. After arranging for Zhou Guoping to handle the renovations, Jiang Chen personally came here to do some market research since he didn't know the tastes of the people. The best way to find out was to personally have a drink or two. While the renovations weren't the best, there was a surprising number of customers. Strange individuals covered in large trench coats sat alone at a table near the door, drinking alcohol that stung the nose. A young man with a red headscarf had a cigarette in his mouth and one foot on a chair as he dealt cards. There were lone travelers, bandits, and those of the profession that recently came into popularity, hunters. Women in exposed clothing leaned against the bar under the flickering lights and waited for tonight's prey to take the bait. And among the shadows, a black market merchant hid, selling harmless products. The air in the bar was shrouded, and the noise cluttered the already limited room. This was Jiang Chen's first impression upon stepping into this space. It was not an illusion that, when he took a step onto the dry wooden floor, at least 10 pairs of eyes flicked over at him. Some were friendly, most were not. After a second's pause, Jiang Chen continued to walk and directly approached the bar counter. "Are you not going to buy me a drink, handsome?" A woman in heavy makeup leaned against the counter and displayed a charming smile. Jiang Chen ignored her with a smile and looked beyond the counter at the bartender, who was silently wiping a cup. White shirt, black pants, a relatively clean appearance, but the slight beer belly turned what should have been suave movements into rather comical motions. "What do you have here?" Jiang Chen sat on the chair and asked casually. Hearing Jiang Chen's words, the bartender stopped and glanced at Jiang Chen. "Your first time here?" "IHaveAMansion. Lots of things. Alcohol, nut coke, e-orange, coca tea." The chubby bartender resumed wiping the glass cup that had been cleaned countless times. "Also hamster milk tea and cockroaches smoothie." A young man whistled and laughed. "I won't sell those things to newcomers." The bartender kept his head down. "Looks like I don't have the opportunity to experience those." Jiang Chen shrugged as he joked, then said, "Give me one of each." The bartender's hand stopped. He turned around to open the fridge and placed odd glass bottles on the counter. 2, 1, 2, 3, a total of 8 crystals. Jiang Chen reached into his pockets and took out 8 crystals from the storage dimension. He casually slapped it onto the table. His ostentatious moves led to a wave of whistle-blowing and looks of avarice. The bartender quietly took the crystals and didn't say a word as he continued to work. He looked over the 4 bottles of drink. Jiang Chen's eyebrows twitched. These things looked as suspicious as they could get. The alcohol seemed relatively normal, should be like baijiu. The nut coke was the oddest. Its fluorescence did not seem potable at all. The e-orange was similar to orange juice, and the cockatoo was green like seaweed, its cloudy liquid interspersed with questionable fragments. "These things are drinkable," Jiang Chen couldn't resist asking. Howls of laughter erupted from behind him. A giant of a man walked up with a smirk on his face before planting his foot on the chair beside him to roughly ask, "Yo, noob, these drinks are too much for you. Why don't you play with us? If you're lucky, one crystal could become 10. His tone and expression assumed Jiang Chen was already in the bag, and the play he referred to was obviously gambling. Jiang Chen glanced at him, and instead of showing anger, smiled. "Then why don't we play a game as well?" As he said this, Jiang Chen didn't allow the man a chance to say yes or no. He slowly withdrew a crystal worth 50 energy crystals from his pocket and waved it in front of the giant who was showing off. "2 crystals per turn. Guess which hand the crystal's in. If you're right, then it's yours." The giant was at a loss at Jiang Chen's abrupt actions, but his expression soon became ecstatic. He thought, "This dumbas. If I guess 10 times, regardless of how you trick me, I'm guaranteed to be correct at least once." But he wasn't a dunce. If Jiang Chen left after 2 turns, his crystals would have gone to waste. 20 crystals, and I guessed 10 times. The giant smiled viciously and slammed the crystals onto the table. The people standing around all gave sympathetic looks at Jiang Chen. Unfortunate that he was targeted by Liu Mang. This noob is really unlucky." The ones who were gloating were mainly the giant's comrades. "Liu Mang, that's a good name." Liu Mang is homonym for the word thug. His lips moved as he muttered in his mind. Jiang Chen didn't seem bothered as he took the 20 crystals on the table. "No problem. It'd be fine even if you wanted to guess 100 times." Jiang Chen yawned as he threw the energy crystal into the air with nimble hands. Liu Mang's vision blurred, and the crystal seemed to disappear from his sight. Upon seeing Jiang Chen's movements, the gloating expressions of the people suddenly twisted, while those who were compassionate rejoiced. It was going to be a good show. Cold sweat rolled down Liu Mang's forehead. He wasn't able to see where the crystals went. He estimated that the reflex of this person was at least 25, and though he was also injected with the genetic vaccine, it had been the standard E grade. "Take a guess." Jiang Chen placed his hands before Liu Mang with a bored expression. Since he hadn't been able to see it clearly, Liu Mang took a wild guess. "Right hand." Jiang Chen laughed. "Congratulations, you're wrong. There was nothing in his right hand." "You're a fraud." Liu Mang was immediately unhappy. His eyes bulged and his companions inched closer with unfriendly expressions. So what if he had the genetic vaccine? Who hadn't? Even if it was a lower quality version, they had an advantage in numbers. Jiang Chen rolled his eyes and opened his left hand. On his palm was a bright purple crystal. "There are 9 more chances. Are you still going to guess?" He did not seem afraid at all. Liu Mang was surprised. He originally thought that since Jiang Chen hadn't immediately revealed his left hand, the crystal must have been hidden away, but it was actually in the left hand. Under everyone's watch, although he had always acted recklessly, he didn't dare to start a fight. After further thought, there were still 9 more chances. Liu Mang signaled his pawns away and let up on his act. He glared at Jiang Chen. "Yes, start." A hint of mockery appeared in Jiang Chen's smile as the crystal was thrown into the air again. He must be joking. Was he the type to use fraud? The answer was definitely. No matter which hand Liu Mang chose, the crystal would always appear in the other hand. The storage dimension was a fraud's holy grail. Jiang Chen imagined that if he went to Macau, all of the legendary gamblers would have to move aside for him. "Last time, you better be careful." Jiang Chen lazily waved his hands in front of Liu Mang. Liu Mang's eyes were pure red as they locked on to the 2 fists. He tried to spot differences in size, but it was futile. This was the gambler's mindset. They would not stop until they lost every single crystal. He had already lost the previous 20 crystals, and he immediately put up the last 10 that he had. He only needed to win once to make all of the money back. So close. But when Jiang Chen opened his hands, he was wrong again. That's impossible. A 50% probability. How could I not even guess it right once? You're a fraud. Liu Meng immediately flared up as he cursed and kicked the chair away with his feet with a fighting posture. Seeing Liu Meng's actions, everyone around exposed looks of disdain. Anyone could see that Jiang Chen was cheating, but if there was no evidence, why was he trying to act like the big man? But the reckless Liu Meng didn't care. Instead, he ordered his thugs to surround Jiang Chen. "Buddy, you dare to cheat me. You think you're tough. Let me tell you, if you don't return the crystals you cheated me out of with both hands and knees on the ground, I'll make sure you don't leave standing up." Jiang Chen flicked his eyes over at the furious Liu Meng and opened his mouth calmly. "You lose 9 times out of 10 in gambling. Has no one taught you this before? Also, speaking of this, does the civil force care enough to come here?" The young man that whistled at Jiang Chen earlier still sat in his original seat. He sipped at his alcohol and laughed without regard to the atmosphere. "Of course, but the cop is always late." "That's perfect then," Jiang Chen laughed. Being ignored, anger shot straight to Liu Meng's head, and he reached for Jiang Chen's collar. "Fuck you, I'm speaking to you." Boom! Without warning, Jiang Chen kicked out. Liu Meng felt like his chest was slammed by a hammer as he flew backward like a kite with its string broken. He slid across a table and directly cannonballed out the door. The bartender looked at Jiang Chen with shock before placing the glass cup aside and subtly pressing the emergency call button beside the counter. The crowd, seeing the conflict, began to whistle and cheer. "Fuck, hit that Bith!" Seeing their leader kicked away, the thugs all grabbed weapons to swarm Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen calmly avoided a side swipe as fury immediately activated. He pinched the dagger in front of him and used the suddenly explosive power to drag it aside and stab it into a thug's shoulder. "Ah!" The thug screamed in pain and fell backward. Jiang Chen didn't stop there. He dragged a thug to him with his right hand clenched over his chest and blocked a few bats from falling on him. "Haha, amazing. Give him the upper chin. Use the chair, dumbas." The crowd did not shy away from trouble. Sometimes they cheered for Jiang Chen, and sometimes they swore at the thugs for being useless. A group of people couldn't even beat one man. With all of the banging, the thugs didn't manage to land any hits on Jiang Chen. Instead, the bats hit all of their own people. Fury deactivated. Cheering, the crowd celebrated the winner. The woman who tried to strike up a conversation with him earlier gently licked her seductive, red lips with bright eyes, but Jiang Chen continued to ignore her. He clapped his hands and glanced at the thugs on the floor. The young man, drinking alone beside the counter, smiled. "I was waiting for you to lose so that I could get a few drinks out of you." "Looks like you won't have the chance." Jiang Chen shrugged as he laughed. "Fuck, you dare to hit me. I'll beat you too." Liu Meng limped into the room limping as he cursed. But when he saw the thugs on the ground and the mocking looks on the crowd's faces, his mouth froze. Meeting Jiang Chen's mischievous grin, he looked at the thugs on the ground again as if he couldn't accept this reality. Do you know who I am?" Once he saw that he couldn't win the fight, Liu Meng began to threaten him with a malevolent stare at Jiang Chen. "Oh, you are." Jiang Chen casually picked up the e-orange and took a sip, but the saccharine taste nearly made him throw it back up. "What people drink this?" The crowd was also shocked as they thought, "What people drink this directly?" Jiang Chen put the drink back with the same mischievous expression. "I'm close to the Huizhang mercenaries. He, since you're wandering around in the area, you must know about them." A sneer surfaced on Liu Meng's face as he stared directly into Jiang Chen's eyes. He wanted to see a hint of fear in those pupils. But he would inevitably be disappointed by Jiang Chen's reaction. When he heard the name Huizhang mercenaries, he resisted the urge to laugh. "Are you close with them?" Jiang Chen looked at him impishly. "That's right, and if you don't want to lie in a casket the second you step out of 6th Street, then you better apologize and give you some compensation." Jiang Chen laughed as he said uncaringly. Liu Meng paused, finally realizing that this person's reaction was off. "That's right. If you know any better, then take out the crystals. Jiang Chen glanced at him and slowly said, "Since you know them so well, do you have any idea where they are now?" "They're in the Songjiang area. I'm close to their leader," Liu Mang said cockily. "No, they're in Qingpu." Jiang Chen shook his finger. "Their bodies are sprayed with formalin and hung up on light posts." Liu Mang was speechless as he looked at Jiang Chen in disbelief. What nonsense are you spouting? Are you in your right fucking mind? You better." "He's not lying." The young man sitting beside the counter laughed as he pointed his cup in Jiang Chen's direction, because he took care of all those dumbasses. Chapter 135. I'm from Jia City. The crowd was shocked by these words. Shock was written all over Liu Mang's face. He did wonder why he hadn't met the Huizhang mercenaries in so long. Could it be that what he said was? His shock gradually turned into fear. "I did hear that the Huizhang mercenaries offended the wrong force and was wiped out. It seemed to be a force from Qingpu." "Oh, I remember. An alcoholic from Qingpu did say this." Lone travelers on the wasteland naturally had heard some news. For example, Songjiang was suddenly stabilized, and the Huizhang mercenaries' raid team had abruptly evaporated into thin air. No one would have guessed that this recognized force had been wiped out by the man standing in front of them. The woman that continued to piercingly gaze at Jiang Chen was even more shocked. If she was tempted in the beginning, now she didn't care about the price anymore. The greedy gazes from the shadows were now wary. They began to question how they would have fared against the Huizhang mercenaries. That's impossible." Liu Mang stared at Jiang Chen as if looking at a ghost. He shivered, unable to properly articulate his words. Jiang Chen didn't bother with Liu Mang anymore. Instead, he smiled at the young man who was sipping at his drink. "I've heard that this industrial alcohol is not too good for you." "It's fine. You can have 2 bottles as well. People with genetic vaccines have a strong digestive system." The man put down his cup and laughed casually. "You know who I am." "Of course. I came from Jia City for the sole purpose of finding you." The young man shrugged and extended his right hand. "Lin Kaon from Jia City's Defenders. Pleased to meet you." "Defenders? Why don't you call yourself the Avengers?" "Jiang Chen." With an odd expression, Jiang Chen similarly extended his hand for a handshake, but the caution in his eyes remained. "Don't look at me like that. I'm a nice person," Lin Kaon said innocently in response to the look of distrust in his eyes. Jiang Chen didn't refute him and looked away. He returned to the seat beside the counter and turned to the frightened Liu Mang. "You're lucky. At least you can choose which brand of formalin you want to use." When he heard those words, Liu Mang immediately got on his knees. "Please spare me. I didn't know any better. Enough, I've heard too much of the same thing. If you want to live," Jiang Chen said irritably. He slapped the counter. "These 4 strange concoctions, you can get the hell out once you finish them." Liu Mang's face turned green instantly. An entire bottle of industrial alcohol. Half of his life would be gone by the time he finishes. What a waste. Why don't you? Before Lin Kaon could finish, a bottle flew in his direction. He caught the object thrown at him by Jiang Chen and laughed as he poured himself another cup. "The remaining 3 bottles, go ahead," Jiang Chen slowly said as he stared at Liu Mang. The 3 drinks did not look normal at all. He didn't have the intention to drink it himself, but for market research as well as curiosity, it was not a bad idea to find his own white rat. Liu Mang thought about Jiang Chen wiping out the Huizhang mercenaries and lost all courage to fight back. He bit the bullet as he valiantly walked up, picked up the bottle of nut coke, and began to guzzle it. The crowd blew whistles as the lot of them stared at his pants mockingly. By the time he finished the entire bottle, Jiang Chen was shocked to discover that this guy's pants had lit up. That's right, lit up. Nut coke adds a trace amount of a radioactive strontium isotope that makes the pee fluorescent. Damn, a whole bottle in one sitting. This guy's dick could be a light bulb for an entire day, Lin Kaon mocked as he took a sip. Radioactive element. Is it not harmful to the human body? Jiang Chen asked as he gave a weird look at the nut coke. This thing is harmless. They sold it before the war. Liu Mang picked up the dark green coca tea. His forehead twisted, but he still raised his head with a look of agony and started to chug. Coca tea has an excessive amount of tea polyphenols as well as other radiation-resistant substances. It doesn't look the best and tastes bitter to the point of stinking, but the radiation resistance effect is quite superb. Just as Lin Keon finished speaking, Liu Mang's pants lost all illumination. After finishing the 2 bottles, Liu Mang held the last e-orange and looked at Jiang Chen with a troubled expression. "Why are you looking at me? Drink." Jiang Chen stared at him. "Yes, yes." Liu Mang grit his teeth as he began drinking from the bottle. As soon as it reached his stomach, however, he fell unconscious to the ground. E-orange, concentrated sweetener. The normal way to drink it is to use the cap to pour it into a big bottle of clear water. If he drank this entire bottle, it'd be better to send him to the hospital right away, Lin Keon explained with a smile. Jiang Chen glanced at him but didn't say much. A few enforcers in black combat suits walked in, catching sight of the thugs on the ground as they eyed the bartender questioningly. They were the one escalating the conflict. They were taught a lesson. The bartender neutrally explained the situation. From his calm expression, it didn't seem to be his first time dealing with this sort of situation. The enforcer smiled at Jiang Chen. "We apologized for your infringed rights. The people who started the conflict will receive a 15-day imprisonment sentence." Afterwards, the enforcers walked up with handcuffs and escorted the people from the ground and away. The enforcers from 6th Street would always have a courteous attitude, but in times of conflict, they would not hesitate to pull out their gun to shoot. Seeing the cops take the people away, the crowd began to disperse because there was nothing more to see. The bar returned to its previous busy atmosphere. The gamblers rolled die and alcoholics nursed their cups. The woman in heavy makeup was prepared to strike up a conversation with Jiang Chen before she suddenly realized that he was not there anymore. In the alley beside the bar, there were deserted junks covered by layers of dust that had accumulated over time. The area was dimly lit, and mutated moss covered the walls. It had been a while since anybody had passed by this area, but 2 figures now stood there. "Speak your mind. Why did you travel so far to find me?" Jiang Chen looked at Lin Keon with an odd expression. He didn't recall going to Jia City before. Could reputation spread through the air? Regardless, Lin Keon's ability was not to be underestimated. To be able to wander the wasteland freely without a large group to protect him, only those with insane powers could do that. Jiang Chen was also curious to know why he sought him. Seeing Jiang Chen ask straightforwardly, the grin on Lin Keon's face began to fade into a more serious expression. A few days ago, a mutated human began moving towards Wangai City and destroyed a survivors' gathering spot. It was a bandit nest, Jiang Chen shrugged and added. "Whatever it was, I followed the mutated human's tracks to Songjiang in Wangai City, but then I only found proof of it being attacked. I came to 6th Street shortly after and heard rumors about you in the bar. Based on the information, the real outcome must be that the mutated human destroyed the Huizhang mercenaries, and they happened to bump into you, after which you wiped them out. You could interpret it that way, and I've been trying to find you, but all I heard was that you were in the Qingpu area but not the exact location. Now we've met by coincidence today, boss of Fishbone Base, Jiang Chen." Lin Keon stared into Jiang Chen's eyes as he spoke in a low undertone. "So why did you want to find me?" Jiang Chen reiterated the question. He didn't want to be involved with a mutated human again. Fighting them was a lost cause. Lin Keon seemed to have expected Jiang Chen's reaction. After a pause, he continued, "Based on our information, the mutated human's force has been gathering in the western area of Wangai City." "Western area? That's Qingpu and Songjia. They're moving in this direction." Jiang Chen's face suddenly changed color. His Fishbone Base was in the Qingpu area, but then he remembered something and looked suspiciously at Lin Keon. "Wait, if you're in Jia City, The mutated humans moving towards Wangai City would be a good thing for you. Why did you come find me? You don't know the conflicts between us and the mutated human, so obviously you would suspect my intentions. The defender's job is to defend against the mutated humans. Lin Keon paused and said, in the past few years, they've been using Area 7 as their base to capture, raid, and enslave people from Jia City. Any resistance was met with death. People of the right age were submerged into vials to receive new life and become dickless like them. Their existence is anti-human to begin with, and so you and I fight against a common enemy. Jiang Chen quietly gazed at Lin Keon, and after a while said, why are the mutated humans coming to Wangai City? Since you found me, you must have some clues about their intentions. Precisely. Lin Keon nodded, then took out the computer and expanded the full sensory map. His finger placed on a spot in the city center, he continued, Carmen Pharmaceutical. They were researching genetic medications and production businesses. It was rumored that they had a partnership with the military. So, Jiang Chen didn't seem to care. Under the partnership, their project was based on the scenario that should the world erupt into a full-scale nuclear war, what would allow PAC citizens to gain radiation resistance in a short time, making them become the sole adapters in the new world. The result of this project was precisely the FEV virus. Jiang Chen was stunned, and he looked at Lin Keon in disbelief. He recalled that mutated humans were the product of merging with the FEV virus. FEV virus, used on us, Jiang Chen still couldn't fathom the truth. He always thought that the FEV virus was a biological weapon created in a laboratory to be used against citizens on the enemy's side. He didn't dare to imagine that the virus had been designed with its own citizens in mind. Nothing would spread faster than a virus. It was the most efficient means of transmission, but the FEV virus was incomplete. The half-finished product was effective only in special nutrients, and it would create misshapen humans who were unable to reproduce. Let's not discuss whether the authorities were humane or not. What's critical now is that these deformed, dickless things seem to have obtained some information that led them to believe that within the Carmen Pharmaceutical building, there is an improved version of the FEV virus that could lead them to a state of higher evolution. It would also allow them to gain the reproductive ability that they had always dreamed of. Jiang Chen's face completely changed when he heard those words. Why don't you go to the pharmaceutical company before them and destroy the improved version of the FEV virus? Lin Keon immediately rejected the proposal while shaking his head. Impossible. First, the company is located within a high radiation area. Unless you have power armor or radiation-resistant suits, the iodine in the EP would not be enough to approach the area. Also, even if we did arrive at Carmen Pharmaceutical, we wouldn't be able to enter the building without the passcode. The security robot would eliminate any unidentified target attempting to break in. Then blow the entire building up, Jiang Chen said viciously. Lin Keon gave Jiang Chen an odd look. A building that could survive the nuclear missile, what kind of explosives do you think could blow it up? Jiang Chen was completely listless. Fuck, why don't you go to the 6th Street officials to talk about this? Lin Keon smiled bitterly. The council wouldn't believe me, and I don't have the confidence to persuade the minimum requirement of 5 council members. To be fair, it's a problem for our Jia City. Even if the mutated human obtained the improved virus, they would return to Jia City to take a bath and devastate the survivors there. Do you think 6th Street would leave their golden age of development and fight a war of lost causes? Then why bother finding me? Because the mutated humans will pass by your front door. They have no reason not to bite into the juicy meat beside their mouths. Lin Keon shrugged and said honestly. You're saying my fishbone base is a piece of juicy meat? Jiang Chen disagreed. In terms of defense, power armors aren't able to utilize their advantage in mobility, especially since you don't have many to begin with, according to the marks left behind on the battlefield. On the other side, there are more than 40 mutated humans. With narrowed eyes, Jiang Chen locked gazes with Lin Keon. Lin Keon fearlessly met Jiang Chen's stare, retracted the computer pen, and extended his right hand again. We can partner up against the common enemy. Chapter 136, for our interest. Best of luck to us. Jiang Chen shook Lin Keon's hand. Just as Lin Keon said, if the mutated humans passed through Qingpu, there was a large probability that a battle would erupt. Hoping that the mutated humans wouldn't discover Fishbone Base was as unreliable as leaving a sheep farm open while praying the wolf pack wouldn't attack. From the mutated human's perspective, every ancient human was a stubborn coward, while normal people viewed these neo-humans as ugly and dickless. From the start, the two sides had no chance of negotiating. The two exchanged communication channels for both camps, and Lin Keon, in a show of sincerity, agreed that if the mutated humans from Area 7 showed signs of movement, the defenders would notify Fishbone Base immediately. At the same time, they signed a defense pact against the mutated humans. Once the mutated humans started their march towards Wangai City, both parties would send their forces to intervene. For a common interest, Lin Keon left right away as soon as they finished business to return to Jia City and report their status. Jiang Chen rested for a bit before a bitter smile appeared on his face. Mutated humans, fuck, why is there trouble after trouble? He had to speed up his armed force development. But winter was approaching. Maybe under the harsh conditions, the mutated humans would choose to march to Wangai City in the coming spring. Hopefully the snow is thick enough. He shook his head and walked towards the fake leg specialty store. On the way, he happened to meet Zhou Guoping, who was chatting with the construction worker. Seeing his boss, Zhou Guoping immediately sent the construction worker away and walked up to fawn on Jiang Chen. "Boss, need me for anything?" As soon as he and Zhou Guoping entered the room, he closed the door and got straight to the point. "If I want to purchase heavy weapons, how do I go about doing this?" Zhou Guoping paused and began to give it serious thought. If it's in Wangai City, 6th Street could produce it, but the Group of 10 Council has restrictions in place to prevent heavy weapons from entering the external market. Other than 6th Street, the Beer Can Company in the north specializes in heavy weaponry production without any restrictions. Due to the long distance and limited production capability, however, they don't have a representative here accepting orders. What about outside of Wangai City? There is a heavy weaponry factory in Sioux City, but due to high prices, not many can afford them. It's been a while since I saw them, Zhou Guoping said hesitantly. Expensive? How expensive? Very, Zhou Guoping forced a smile. They only sell giant weapons. Based on my understanding, the 85mm tank cannon is priced at 7,000 crystals. Also, as long as you can afford it, they even sell tanks. Tanks? Jiang Chen's eyes instantly lit up. Pay attention. When they're here, immediately notify me. I'll head back to Fishbone Base after this, so you'll take care of the tasks here. Jiang Chen patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him. Do a good job. I have faith in you. Ignoring how the ecstatic Zhou Guoping tried to suck up to him, he left a few hundred crystals as an initial fund to start the store before he left. It was already the start of October, and the plan for the apocalypse was about to start. He had to go back and make some preparations. After leaving 6th Street, Jiang Chen headed for the sewerage entrance guarded by the Zhao Corporation. Following the surge in trade between Fishbone Base and Zhao Corporation, the sewerage had been upgraded. The mold and dirt on the road were cleaned away, and the confusing intersections were locked off. The wall corners were even installed with light-activated cold lamps. He took the elevator back to the surface, where a soldier guarding the elevator saluted. With a nod of acknowledgement, Jiang Chen followed the closed-off concrete walkway to the inside of Fishbone Base. At the shooting range outside of the wall, Jiang Chen found Zhao Gang. "How do you feel?" Jiang Chen smiled. "Not bad," Zhao Gang nodded. After that terrible incident, the audacious man had become reticent. 10 for 10, damn, how is this not bad? Cheng Weiguo carried the rifle and spoke while laughing. Jiang Chen looked at Zhao Gang with surprise and nodded appreciatively. "I have a mission for you." "MHMM," Zhao Gang agreed without asking for the details. Jiang Chen took out the computer pen and marked Area 7 on the map. I need you to head for Area 7 and find out as much information as you can about the mutated humans. Their camp spot, combat power, number of people, the more specific, the better. The more he knew about the enemy, the higher the chances of winning against them. The mutated humans were stationed in Area 7, and Fishbone Base had no information on them at all. Based on the crossfire from last time, however, mutated humans were not to be underestimated even with armor or firepower. Jiang Chen also didn't completely trust Lin Keon's words. It was far more reliable to send his own men. Understood. When should I leave? Tomorrow. Take some time to prepare. If you need any equipment, just let Chen Weiguo know and take it directly from the armory. 10 nutrient supplies as well as this rifle. Zhao Gang shook his head. In terms of scouting, the probability of engaging in combat is low. Although the base had compressed crackers, in terms of convenience, it could not match the nutrient supply that could replenish both energy and water. That's fair, then I'll count on you. Be quick. Jiang Chen patted him on the shoulder as he said seriously. IHaveAMansion. As expected, he nodded without any arguments against the mission. Returning to the mansion, Jiang Chen happened to bump into Lin, who came out of shower humming. Seeing her so happy, he couldn't resist the temptation to make fun of her. You don't short-circuit. Lin's eyebrows traveled all the way up, but as she was about to give a rebuttal, she thought about how she was under his control and froze in place. Jiang Chen was surprised to see her hold her tongue. Oh, what's the progress on the mission I gave you? Do you think scientific research is like masturbation? It will come out after rubbing a little. Finally, Lin couldn't resist the temptation to curse. Jiang Chen looked at her oddly. He couldn't connect the vulgar words with the elf-like looks of this girl. Although I haven't done research before, have you masturbated? Lin's face turned red and cursed under her breath. Pervert. She ran away with her head buried. It's so fun teasing this girl. Seeing Lin flee the scene, Jiang Chen laughed malevolently. But first things first. He shook his head and put Lin's matter aside to go up to the second floor and find Sun Jiao. You're back. Sun Jiao's eyes brightened when she saw him. She dropped the items in her hands and with upturned lips greeted him delightfully. IHaveAMansion. Jiang Chen hugged the passionate Sun Jiao and asked, how's the bank mission doing? We've shipped the gold back. It's around 15 tons. The marks have been sanded off and right now it's piled up in the pool, she said intimately. Sun Jiao looked deeply into Jiang Chen's eyes. Thank you. He touched her soft hair and returned her gaze. Of course, I'm so tired. She stretched and was pleased to hear the light gulping nose. Smirking, she continued, how are you planning on rewarding me? Let's talk about this tonight. Jiang Chen touched his nose, looking away shyly. He caught sight of something strange beside the bed. That is a towel. What is this? Jiang Chen craned his neck to look curiously at the strange item. Sun Jiao's face immediately turned red. She dashed to the bedside and hid the unknown item under the blankets. What are you talking about? Her eyes began to wander. It was rare for her to play dumb. Curious. Jiang Chen was unable to control his interest and began to ask energetically, the thing you just hid. No, what did I just hide? Sun Jiao's eyebrows rose as she said fiercely. No, I saw it with my own eyes. Illusion? It must be an illusion. Vehemently denying it, Sun Jiao blushed and pushed at Jiang Chen, who tried to leap over to see. She then slammed the door shut. Phew. Sun Jiao sat on the bed and exhaled. Her heart was beating so fast. This is too embarrassing. It's not like me. Sun Jiao's hands patted her burning red face as she dove into the bed. She reached for the blanket and covered herself like an ostrich. The treasure hidden under the blanket was exposed. It was an old magazine. Based on the publication date, it was printed before the war. How to capture your boyfriend's heart. Weave a scarf for him in the cold winter. Attached, simple weaving technique. Sun Jiao, who had been born in a survival base and lived wandering the wasteland, didn't know what love was. It was something she had never learned before. She picked up this magazine from the bank, unaware of what scarves were, but she was intrigued by the printed words on the front page. Could a scarf be this magical? Sun Jiao didn't really understand. But if Jiang Chen came from before the war, then it had to be useful for him. She firmly believed this. Standing by the poolside, Jiang Chen observed the lustrous gold. In the apocalypse, this gold was worth less than dirt. He took a deep breath and submerged his conscious into the storage dimension. Compared to before, the storage dimension seemed to have expanded by a lot, from 1 cubic meter to 5 cubic meters now. But Jiang Chen was still clueless on how the interdimensional bracelet evolved. Charging it repeatedly seemed to be useful, but otherwise, it was not obvious. The overload from last time seemed to have increased the size of the storage dimensional by quite a lot, but Jiang Chen didn't dare to do anything so dangerous again. Instead of overloading it, it could potentially fry the bracelet. Putting the gold into the storage dimension, Jiang Chen was prepared to return to the modern world, but he suddenly remembered the promise he made with Sun Jiao. A smirk appeared on his face. "I'll go back tomorrow morning." Chapter 137, Close the Door. When he left Sun Jiao's room, it was already noon. A smile rose unbidden to his face when he recalled the intimacy from last night. She seemed to sense that he'd be gone for a while because she'd been extra passionate. By the time the two fell asleep in each other's embrace, it was already late into the night. He stretched his stiff body and walked to the bathroom. With a light press on the touchscreen, hot water filled the sink. Taking a deep breath, he leaned against the sink and submerged his head into the water. After holding his breath, "Who?" He resurfaced from the water and briskly shook his head, feeling refreshed. Jiang Chen looked at his reflection in the mirror and let the water droplets roll down his face. "It's been 3 months." He touched his chin, lost in his memories of 3 months ago, back in July. It was the middle of summer, and as soon as he came here, he encountered a girl on the verge of starvation. Jiang Chen laughed. He wasn't sure why he wanted to laugh. Maybe because the experiences in these past 3 months had been too exciting, or because of his own transformation, or perhaps because it had been too fulfilling. He vigorously shook the water from his head and picked up the electric razor. There are many things in this world that are quite convenient. He plastered a thin layer of plastic wrap around his mouth, and with a click of a button, he could shave his beard away in a second. This was a treasure to the world. In the washroom itself, there was a digitalized shower, a smart toilet, multifunctional bathtub with a sauna function, and even the toilet paper was more advanced than the modern world's. Life is a magical journey. Jiang Chen looked outside the window. The view faced the newly expanded wall. On top of the metal scaffolding were workers and engineers ordered the construction. He remembered that in the beginning, his only thought was to obtain gold and become a carefree, wealthy man. And as soon as he got his wish, the first thing he did was spend it lavishly, blowing it all away and experiencing the life he had envied before. But he fulfilled those wishes a long time ago. Now is it power? Jiang Chen stared at his right hand. The water droplets on the back of his hand reflected his matured face. Once he had the 500 million USD in his hands, a sprout called ambition grew in his heart. From that point onward, troubles began to hound him. Sometimes he imagined what would have happened if he came to this world for the first time and didn't walk into this mansion. What if he didn't encounter the naughty and cute girl, didn't meet so many unforgettable people? Sneak some gold and sell it discreetly in the modern world, becoming a rich man in the shadows. If he met malicious forces, he would switch cities or even citizenship instead of using his power to push them away. If he met mutated bacteria he was unable to resist, he would leave the area. This place was an ATM for him anyway. There was no reason to risk his life to eliminate the bacteria source. But it would be a different kind of life. In the modern world, he would enjoy a lavish lifestyle, and in the apocalypse, he would discreetly explore. No attachment, no concerns, perhaps that was the safer choice. Perhaps it was the best way to survive in this world filled with danger. But it would lack the excitement of a vibrant life. Jiang Chen shook his head laughing and walked out the door. Without a myriad of beautiful encounters, what was the purpose of living? Since on productivity alone, man could not beat machine. At the door, he met Yao Yao on her way to the washroom. She walked half asleep and rubbed her drowsy eyes with her small hand. The pouted mouth looked like a cherry freshly picked off with the morning dew. Because she was anemic, she couldn't handle mornings very well. Although she seemed to be overly conscious about her small flaw, Jiang Chen didn't care. A dizzy loli was too cute to be true, especially when she was asleep and subconsciously sought to hug anything warm. Don't ask how he knew. Just as Jiang Chen was about to say hello, Yao Yao's drowsy face turned beet red, and her body temperature spiked. Good morning. Good morning. Ooh, are you okay? Jiang Chen asked carefully as he gave a confused look at Yao Yao, who had her head buried low. And nothing. Her adorable eyes avoided his, and her hands fiddled with each other behind her back. She doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Just as Jiang Chen was at a loss, Lin Lin also appeared walking towards the bathroom. When she saw him standing by the door, Lin Lin's pale face blushed, but she didn't act shyly. Instead, she threw a dirty glare at Jiang Chen, who had put her in an awkward position. Pervert! What did I do? Completely lost, he didn't bother arguing back. Question marks floated over his head as he looked back and forth between Yao Yao and Lin Lin. But the two of them didn't have the slightest intention to open their mouths. Yao Yao seemed to want to say something, but her trembling lips suggested that she was too embarrassed to say it. The odd atmosphere lingered. Finally, the kind Yao Yao broke the silence. Yao Yao still didn't meet Jiang Chen's gaze, her cherry-like mouth pouting in displeasure. She murmured, "It is understandable that a ripe apple tastes good. Yao Yao is not angry, but it is better to be quieter because a small animal can only drool and watch, and be envious." Her voice became fainter the more she felt wronged. What's going on? Dumbfounded, Jiang Chen stared at Yao Yao. Her frail and unhappy attitude was cute, but what was this strange way of guilt-tripping? Pervert? Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight Lin Lin mocking him. Thinking of this pervert's terrible attitude towards her, she felt particularly jubilant seeing his awkward attitude. Finally taking revenge. She wanted to burst into song to celebrate. But Lin Lin clearly overestimated her importance. Just as she finished saying that, a chilling stare was directed at her. I think a digitalized human doesn't need to eat. Or are you prepared to tell me what happened? Jiang Chen glared at her as he threatened without considering her feelings. It was only when Jiang Chen bullied Lin Lin that he didn't feel any guilt at all. Oh no, not even guilt. The sensation was through the roof. Lin Lin's expression took a turn for the worse. As usual, her confident look became sorrowful. You dare to threaten me? Enough, you're a pervert. Remember to keep it down when you do that thing at night, and then close the door. Lin Lin ran away sadly. Shut the door, keep it down. Jiang Chen was lost until he recalled Sun Jiao's voice. He immediately looked at Yao Yao with difficulty. She was still throwing a bit of a tantrum. Her pouting lips were about to touch the tip of her nose. Yao Yao is already working so hard, and doesn't taste bad. The one with the loud voice must be happy. It doesn't have to do with taste. He finally comforted Yao Yao, while feeling as though the mansion had become a little awkward. Chapter 138, Improving the Helicopter. The base was bustling. Excluding the women in the care center, the base's population approached 150, and they were the backbone of the future Fishbone base. Once the newly expanded wall was completed, 2 more apartment buildings would be added, and then they could consider accepting foreign populations. Lu Huasheng was still in charge of the construction. Needless to say, the ex-chief developer of Huajian real estate certainly had his strengths. Jiang Chen gave him the opportunity to demonstrate his ability, and he proved himself by designing the base's structure. An honest and hardworking man like him was best suited for jobs that required basic planning with no room for mistakes. With his foresight, Jiang Chen was able to choose the right people, and Lu Huisheng didn't disappoint him. He personally stood with the construction team every day on the front lines to expand the wall with 120% efficiency. For someone like Cheng Weiguo, who had loyalty and a strong passion, Jiang Chen assigned him a role in the army as the leader of the civil force, responsible for guarding the base and training the soldiers. As for Zhou Guoping, he was the type to be smooth and flattering, so Jiang Chen naturally stationed him in the 6th Street. This was partially because he had prior experience in intelligence collection, and also because he had a bad history with Chu Nan. Although it was not directly Zhou Guoping's fault, he did violate Chu Nan's goddess in front of him multiple times. For the sake of keeping the harmony in the base, it was not a terrible decision to separate them. On his way to a warehouse, Jiang Chen passed by the community center, which was a temporary hangar to store the Type 51 transport helicopter. There, entering the hangar, Jiang Chen found Chu Nan hard at work repairing the helicopter. Virtual reality training chambers inside the base were installed with general weaponry training, and they could also copy general technical skills from the city library. But for a military transportation vehicle like the Helicopter 51, which was considered top secret before the war, it was excluded from the civil force training courses. Therefore, the only person able to repair and operate this helicopter was Chu Nan. "How's the situation?" Jiang Chen asked as he approached. "Terrible." Chu Nan didn't turn around. His only response was to wipe his sweat with his arm and continue arranging the messy wiring. "Can it be repaired?" He glanced at the helicopter that seemed to come straight from science fiction and touched the circular side wings. He didn't see a rotor on the helicopter, but based on the appearance, the suspension force most likely came from this circular structure. The design of the body was aerodynamic with a hatch door open in the back. The words "transport helicopter" along with the pack symbol had all but faded, and the metal frame in the front was caved in from the impact. Even the bulletproof glass was completely shattered. The appearance wasn't so terrible, but Jiang Chen did question whether it would ever fly again. "Should be fixable. The damage to the exterior is fine since it can be easily replaced with metal parts, but the problem is the electronic parts inside. Damn it, the entire engine control is burned. Can you believe it? Inside the city center, I met a monster that can fire an EMP from its mouth." Chu Nan cursed as he retracted a palm-sized box from the helicopter's side and connected the exposed wiring to the computer on the side to input some data. Jiang Chen's expression turned strange when he heard Chu Nan's words. He himself had encountered a monster that could emit EMP before. "Isn't it hard to see mutants that can fire EMP?" Chu Nan turned around with a look of surprise. "Actually, it's common to see mutants that can fire EMP." Jiang Chen paused. Now that he thought about it, he knew Chu Nan ended up in that area because he failed a mission, but he never asked about the specifics. The mission was to eliminate a mutant creature and collect the crystal. We sent out 2 helicopters as well as a force of 12 soldiers equipped with power armors. When we arrived at the target location, I suspended the helicopter above the yellowish-green particles. Then our captain requested missile support. The missile would expose the body, the soldiers parachute, kill, and collect the crystal. That was the routine, and it wasn't my first time out on such a mission. It was a beautiful hit. The electromagnetic cannon fired from Liuding town directly hit the building, and the concrete tumbled down like an avalanche. Just when we thought all we needed to do was go down and collect the crystals. Chu Nan paused with a mysterious smile. A red meat cannon as tall as half the building fired a red beam into the sky. It hit nothing, but the 2 helicopters immediately stalled. The monster seemed to have exploded, so the parachuted soldiers must have been successful. But who knows? Chu Nan shrugged as he inserted a processor into the helicopter body. "Did no one from Liuding town come to save you?" "That's impossible." Chu Nan's mouth twitched. "For Liuding town, pilots can be mass-produced. The only thing of value was this metal scrap right here, but the point of the crash was too far from the port. I almost flew half a city." Jiang Chen fell into silence. He suddenly recalled his time in the underground fallout shelter. The artificial intelligence had described the bug that infiltrated the fallout shelter. Even if it missed, your metal pieces will become a metal casket." "Klein particles," Jiang Chen muttered to himself. "What's that?" Chunan asked confusedly. "Nothing." He would ask Lin Lin about Klein particles later. For now, Jiang Chen avoided the topic. "Oh, once you finish repairing the helicopter, could you make some modifications to it?" "Modifications?" IHaveAMansion, such as installing a 50 machine gun on the side and welding a fire cannon on the top. Different than Liuding Town, Fishbone Base's focus was on land. Hence, there was no need for long-distance combat, and it would better suit Fishbone Base's combat needs if the Type 51 was converted into an air cannon vehicle. "Do you think the helicopter is a truck, that you could weld anything on top?" Chunan couldn't help but ridicule him. "What's the problem?" stumped Jiang Chen frowned. "There's a big problem." Chunan shook his head as he dragged the wiring from the computer. He picked up the screwdriver again to adjust parts inside the helicopter. "Balance is a big issue. Even casual modifications could cause the helicopter to be unable to suspend itself or fly a certain distance before it flips over." "Then let's not do a casual modification." Jiang Chen laughed as he patted Chunan on the shoulder. "I'll leave the trouble to you, the expert. I need you to add some weapons on this thing. The stronger the firepower, the better." Hearing such an unprofessional request made Chunan rub his face with his palms. He let out a helpless sigh. "I'll try my best. I'll install a machine gun on the side and design a new fire control system. As for the fire cannon, I'll install it near the back hatch. It should be okay if it's manually controlled. But if we modify it like this, the transport helicopter will become a combat helicopter." Jiang Chen smiled at Chunan's doubts. "Exactly what I want." Chapter 139, Harmonious. After parting from Chunan, Jiang Chen took a stroll around the base. Now that everything was on the right track, there weren't many things that he needed to do as the boss. As long as he set the overarching direction, there were others to take care of the rest. For now, all he needed to do was transport food over from the modern world. For now, the tasks related to the Crusade's aftermath were finally resolved. The freckled girl was more mature compared to when she first arrived, developing an air of professionalism. He remembered that she'd been like a startled squirrel. With her constantly anxious attitude and top-notch accounting grades, he assigned her to take care of the warehouse. Honestly, Jiang Chen felt happy watching the growth of his employees. Once she heard out Jiang Chen's intention, she took out a tablet terminal and reported the status of supplies within the base. "We've organized the supplies that are ready to trade with 6th Street. There aren't many food supplies left, and with the current consumption speed, it can last for at most 10 days, she said with concern. The supplies were carefully recorded in a list, so precise that each bag of rice was listed with its warehouse location and by weight. The comprehensive software had also been designed by Yao Yao, while the game New Era was passed on to Du Yangkong for an update. Since he used to be a game developer, it matched his skill set. Yao Yao, other than the warehouse management software, also installed some more interesting gadgets for the base. For example, she set up the worker management system used by Lu Huasheng during construction, the control system for the cameras around the base, as well as the drone patrol system. "You don't have to worry, I'll take care of it. What about the firearms?" It was easy for him to take care of it once he returned to the modern world. Seeing the boss' confident look, Wang Qin smiled and nodded. She pressed a few more buttons on the tablet and pulled up another list. He roughly scanned the items on the list before Jiang Chen asked her to take him to the weaponry. He took around 10 Reaper rifles as well as 1 Ghost sniper, a box of ammunition, and 10 grenades before returning to the base. He put the supplies away in the storage dimension and approached the poolside in the backyard. With a deep breath, he commenced traveling. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on a soft bed. He sat up and shook his head. Taking out the phone, he called Robert's hidden number. The phone rang 3 times before it went through. "Hi, buddy, how have you been?" "Not bad. How goes the business?" Jiang Chen didn't bother with small talk and cut straight to the point. "Don't worry, the Irish guy loves acting." Delighted laughter could be heard from a distance on the other side. "I've already arranged the things on Kane's side. When do you plan on leaving?" "I booked the ticket for tomorrow. Get Nick to leave, we'll meet in Vate." "Okay, but he's already there, so contact him once you arrive." "I've sent the itinerary to your email, Mr. President," Robert joked. After exchanging some light banter, Jiang Chen hung up, and after thinking for a bit called the food store owner he was partnered with. It would still be sent to the same storage, and the shipment would arrive in the afternoon. It was most likely his last order with them. Once Xinlong Food Processing Plant got on track, he would opt to use that channel instead. Stuffing the phone back into his pocket, Jiang Chen got up and left the bedroom. A mansion this spacious with only 2 people living inside did feel empty. He stepped on the expensive hardwood floor. Looking at the delicate decorations, Jiang Chen suddenly felt emotional. He'd bought this mansion a while back, but he never took the time to enjoy it since he'd been so busy handling tasks in the modern and apocalypse world. It seemed as though he was living life with too rough of pace. Maybe sometime later, he would take a vacation. As he ruminated, Jiang Chen strolled into the kitchen. He gently pushed the glass door to the kitchen and saw Aisha with an apron, concentrated on chopping vegetables. A smirk appeared on his face as he sneaked closer and embraced Aisha from behind. The serene figure stiffened, but loosened up as soon as she realized who it was. "You're back." Aisha gently smiled and intimately tilted her head to rub it against Jiang Chen's face. "IHaveAMansion, did you prepare the meal for me?" This girl's hand was getting better and better. The technology of the future was truly remarkable. "Not yet, but I am now." Aisha smiled and softly squeezed Jiang Chen's hand. She led him to the side and opened the fridge. "What do you want to eat? My cooking has improved a lot." "I want to eat you." Jiang Chen grinned and blew into her ear. Her perfect face colored by a tinge of pink, she looked away from embarrassment. She faintly asked, "Could we wait until after the meal?" "After the meal? Don't you want to do it here?" Here, a hint of anxiousness appeared in her eyes. Seeing her adorable look, Jiang Chen was satisfied and didn't tease her anymore, so he finished his sentence with the same smirk. "I want to eat you, our cooked dishes." Aisha froze, then angrily threw a few soft punches at Jiang Chen's chest before leaving his hug. "We'll eat fried fish today." It was one of the few times he felt like the head of the family. He didn't interrupt Aisha from cooking anymore, since he didn't want to eat overcooked dishes. He sank into the living room sofa and relaxed while watching a Hollywood film in his home theater that cost 10,000 RMB. It wasn't as sophisticated as the one in 6th Street's Paradise Island Hotel, but it was a different experience. It was the perk of being rich. Most people used their laptops to watch a film on 720p, and some would spend money to see it in IMAX or 3D. But the real luxury was to enjoy a theater-level film experience in the comfort of your own home without the annoying kids. It would be even better with some popcorn. The movie finished exactly at noon. Aisha virtuously set the table before calling Jiang Chen over to eat. A full-course lunch. In the center was a fried fish dish seasoned with red soup and green onion. It was Aisha who thought to combine Han and Middle Eastern dishes. Without a doubt, the aesthetics were superb and the taste was ephemeral. "IHaveAMansion, while your cooking is getting better and better," Jiang Chen raised his thumb and exclaimed. Aisha softly smiled, "As long as you like it." "How have you been?" "Pretty good. The environment here is peaceful," Aisha exclaimed. She lowered her head to look at the utensils in front of her as she quietly said, "Just like heaven." Slightly lost, Jiang Chen watched Aisha's face, but the words he was about to say was stuck in his throat. Sensing Jiang Chen's hesitation, Aisha was confused and tilted her head slightly to look at him. "IHaveAMansion, I'm just uncertain now." Jiang Chen sighed, saying with a troubled smile, I planned on taking you to Ukraine tomorrow, but since you just escaped from war, you would probably hate going back to it. Yesha quietly stood up and walked to his side. She surrounded him with her arms and gently pressed her face against his. I am yours. I'm willing to become your sword to fight for you. If you need me, there's no need to hesitate, just use me. I never thought of you as a tool, Jiang Chen lightly said, placing his hands over hers, and I've never used anyone. If you feel repulsive towards weapons, there's no need to force yourself. The rest was blocked. The silence lasted for a brief moment before Aisha removed her finger. If I felt weapons were repulsive, I never would have used them in the virtual reality. That thing doesn't belong here, right? Jiang Chen wasn't surprised, but his smile was still a bit forced. You knew. Although the mutated human that appeared out of thin air should have exposed something already, Aisha never asked, so he never had the opportunity to explain. Aisha nodded. That training. Once you pass it, it'll unlock new weapons and new training materials that include more powerful rifles and even rifle without bullets. No bullets, is it a Gauss rifle? Du Yangkang had misinterpreted Jiang Chen's words. He wanted him to add a limit on the virtual reality system to include only weapons that existed between the years 2000 and 2020, but Du Yangkang instead designed a game mode that gradually unlocked tiers as the training continued. Whatever, if it's Aisha who knows, there's nothing to worry about. Sensing the trust in his body temperature, Aisha gently closed her eyes. Tomorrow, we'll go to Ukraine. Since Aisha didn't feel repulsed, it would be pretentious to act uncertain about this question. Aisha nodded. Do you know how to use a sniper, the ghost sniper? Yes, she trained in wielding that gun in the virtual reality training system. Once we arrive in Kane, I need you to protect me in trades. Because we're in a sensitive area and the business partner is no ordinary target, you might have to engage in combat with some civil force snipers. Aisha smiled and pressed her soft finger against Jiang Chen's lips. You're overprotective, I'm not small anymore. Hearing this, Jiang Chen thought for a moment before a relieved smile appeared on his face. You're right. Enjoying the tranquil moment, Jiang Chen suddenly thought of something and leaned closer to Aisha's ear. Speaking of which, it's after the meal. She remembered her promise to Jiang Chen in the kitchen, and she blushed again, lowering her head shyly. Let's go back to the room. No. Back to the kitchen. It was an evil laugh. That's right, incredibly evil. Chapter 140, Arriving at Vate. Boris Bor International Airport. A young man in a black sweater, casual pants, and a duff bag looked around the empty airport. What is your purpose of coming to Kane? A middle-aged man in uniform looked up and glanced at him a few more times than usual while fidgeting with the passport in hand. Asian face, 2 years ago it would not be rare, but Vate now, any foreign face was worth the extra glance. Travel, the man smiled and exposed his white teeth. The middle-aged officer was clearly shocked as he looked at him oddly again. I hope you enjoy your trip. The passport was fine. The officer didn't say anything as he mechanically stamped it and let him go. Phew. Walking out of the airport, Jiang Chen relaxingly stretched and scanned the unfamiliar street. Vate's sky was clear. Bright sunshine, clear blue sky, clean street, as well as the towering trees. Baroque and Byzantine style of architecture could be seen everywhere. The colorful brick walls resembled a small town in the Middle Ages. Other than the modern-looking street lamp and signs, the vibrancy of rich culture was everywhere in the city. He heard that East and Lugansk were currently fighting, but the flames of war obviously didn't spread to here yet. Even then, the streets looked empty. Jiang Chen was disappointed to not be able to witness the beauty-infested Kane, as rumors said. Of course, the purpose of the trip was not to see beauties. Not long, a personal vehicle stopped in front of him. The window rolled down, and a head with a red nose peeked out. Do you need a taxi? Jiang Chen barely understood the English laced with a Russian accent. "Of course, take me to Pyramir Hotel." Hearing this, the driver also glanced at him a few more times. Although Jiang Chen's hand-accented English was hard to understand, as a local, he easily made out the words Premier Hotel. Only the wealthy could afford those five-star hotels. Jiang Chen opened the door, sat on the front passenger seat, and strapped on the seat belt. The sturdy-looking Canadian driver started the car and drove out smoothly. He heard that to ride in Kane, the first thing was to set the price, or he would be scammed. A ride that only cost 30 may end up costing 150 once they arrive at the destination. But Jiang Chen didn't really mind as it was pocket change for him. "Tell me about Vate, what's fun here?" Jiang Chen started to chat with the driver by his side. "Central Street and Independence Square are all not bad places. It's great for shopping and sightseeing." The driver was also talkative. He held the steering wheel and began telling Jiang Chen about the sightseeing places in Vate. "If you are interested in the history and culture of the place, you could check out Golden Gate. A lot of tourists like to take pictures there, as well as the Memorial Museum in the right bank of the Dnieper River." When they started to talk about the historical sites, the rigid face worn by time had a proud expression. "Oh, could you tell me about the Memorial Museum?" Jiang Chen was quite interested. Although his destination for this trip was East in the East, and he probably won't have time to explore this beautiful city, it would be cool to listen to the perspective of a local. But for some reason, when Jiang Chen asked about the specifics of the Memorial Museum, a gloom seemed to cover the driver's face. "To remember the victory of defending the country. Darn, I remember when I was young, it was beautiful." "What about now? I think this place is not bad." Jiang Chen looked out the window. The weather was lovely, the sunshine was bright, a great place to explore. "It's absolutely terrible," the driver said emotionlessly. "People with guns divided into two sides, and the innocent people are stuck in the middle. Back when Soviets ruled, this place was not like this." Jiang Chen looked at him, but didn't continue with the topic. For the locals, it seemed to be a remorseful topic. The textbook he learned seemed to provide a simple black and white picture. That was the only perspective he saw about the entire event. He faintly recalled that when the Lenin statue was pushed down, the citizens from Kane celebrated. It was truly shocking when Vate welcomed democracy. The faces of the people were cheering. Who actually represented them? The silence only ensued for a brief moment before the driver spoke again. "Is this your first time in Kane?" "That's right," Jiang Chen smiled. After hesitating for a moment, the kind-hearted driver continued, "Vate's security is actually terrible, far worse than what Poroshenko described. Every day there are countless foreigners like you being robbed, and of course, locals included too." "I will be careful," Jiang Chen noncommittally smiled. Robbery, he didn't think anyone in this world would be able to beat him. Seeing Jiang Chen's unbothered expression, the driver didn't say anything. He already did his part in alerting him. "Also, some police may give you trouble due to your passport. In these situations, the easiest way is to pay him $100 or just insist you haven't heard about this law and demand that you contact your embassy before paying the fine." I'll be careful." For the kind-hearted alert of the driver, Jiang Chen happily accepted. The car arrived at its destination. When he got off the car, Jiang Chen left $100 on the seat and signaled there was no need for change. The driver didn't refuse, but he looked grateful by the gesture. The days were getting harder and harder. $100 for Jiang Chen may be nothing, but for him, it was a sizable amount of money. Jiang Chen hauled his duffel bag into the hotel, and Jiang Chen showed the reception at the front desk his confirmation before he took the key. The Premier Hotel was luxuriously decorated. The square and upright giant structure demonstrated the philosophy of Russian architecture, and the European decor and lighting had a vibe of beauty originating from its detailing. His hotel room was on the top floor, the most expensive presidential suite, but it was much cheaper compared to the Sheraton in Sanya as a night only cost him 2,200 RMB. The hotel had a complete set of amenities with a casino, bar, sauna, outdoor pool, gym, indoor pool, and spa. But because the purpose of the trip was not a vacation, he would not have the time to enjoy those things. He carried the bag into the elevator, went to the top floor, and walked to the room that belonged to him. Needless to say, Jiang Chen looked out of place standing there. Most of the people living here were all men in suits. His casual wear on the top floor filled with presidential suites did look odd. But who cared? Being able to live here proved his financial ability. The moment Jiang Chen took out a key, a blonde, blue-eyed, gorgeous-figured beauty walked up with a cheerful smile. "Do you need service?" Surprisingly, although she stuttered a little, she spoke Han. But after giving it a thought, Jiang Chen cursed in his mind. How many fellow citizens did she service to be able to speak Han this well? "No, thank you." Jiang Chen smiled courteously and rejected the offer. If he were on vacation, Jiang Chen without standards wouldn't mind having some intimate affairs with the foreign beauty. But since he had business to take care of, he must resist the temptation. She looked at Jiang Chen in surprise. In her memory, rarely would millionaires coming from Han refuse to have an intimate affair with her, but she didn't say much more. She smiled and left in elegant steps. Jiang Chen touched his slightly hot nose as he pushed open the door. He turned on the lights. Jiang Chen threw the bag on the bed and walked straight to the window as he cautiously closed the blinds. He took out a clock-sized device from his bag and placed it on the nightstand. He thought that it was too dumb to use an EMP every time he needed to counter-monitor, so Jiang Chen discussed with Yao Yao, and she used recycled electronic parts to create an anti-monitor device. Once opened, any cameras within a radius of 20 m would be affected. The screen would be locked to a picture of the instant the machine started, including communication. Any communication attempted outside the whitelist would be blocked. Although it may be redundant, it was better to be safe. He took out his phone. Jiang Chen called Aisha, who left first. "How's your side doing?" Arrived at East rural area. Under the plan, the two head to Kane separately. Not only do they take different flights, but Aisha will also arrive a day ahead in East rural area controlled by the government force. Although Jiang Chen was still worried, Aisha reassured him. Within the virtual reality training system, she received an A on sniper training. With the help of the genetic vaccine and sophisticated weapons that far exceeded the current era, there was no need to worry. Perhaps just like what Aisha said, sometimes Jiang Chen could be a little overprotective. "MHMM, I will meet Nick tomorrow and then head to East. I'll send you my itinerary, be safe." Then Jiang Chen hung up the phone. He peeked at the small, bright sky. Jiang Chen stretched and then took out the laptop from his bag, connected it to the Wi-Fi and opened up his email. Sender Robert. Information: Markinov, male, 36. Government force official, ranked colonel, brigadier of the 92nd Mechanized Infantry. Note: confidant of the current president, corrupt. He stared at the word corrupt as a dubious smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face.